What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today I've got for you a very special episode. This year on my channel, toxic relationship drama has absolutely dominated. It's felt like I've read so many crazy stories about relationship drama in general, but more specifically, I've noticed there have been some incredibly toxic characters present in a lot of stories I've read over the past 12 months. So in this episode, what I've done is I have handpicked some of the most toxic relationship drama stories of the past year, and I've compiled them into this video. So if you're a fan of toxic relationship stories, as I know a lot of you are, this is the episode for you. Sit back and relax if you can. This is 3 hours of the most toxic relationship Reddit drama stories. Let's go. Fiance used my childhood trauma to win a video game. I don't even know how to type this or explain my thoughts right now, so I apologize if I seem scattered. I am a 31-year-old man, and I've been engaged to my fiance, who is a 29-year-old woman, Emily, for the past 3 months. We've been together for 2 years. She's been the only relationship where I felt safe enough to open up and discuss my past trauma. Many nights I've cried into her arms and she's been there to comfort me. She goes to therapy with me and has been a rock in our relationship. I've been getting much better since I've really opened up about it, and I've been able to live a better and liberating life the past 2 years. Until last Saturday. Emily is ultra competitive, not just in sports, but in life. She would do whatever it takes to win and be number one. She's lost friendships, family relationships, jobs, and money. She understands this and has been trying to get better by going to therapy, stating she doesn't know why she's like this. She seemed to cool down over the summer, but she's still very competitive. Even her parents have no idea because they've never pushed her to be number one, and her siblings are confused as to when this all started. I was a former college athlete, and yes, I am competitive, but not so much anymore. And recently, my friend group had begun a monthly game night. I was on a 4-month win streak. We played board games, old video games, painting, basketball, and even football. And it was all in good fun. But Emily last month was so angry she didn't win that she walked home and didn't want to talk to me for at least 2 days. Before we left for games night, I asked her to please have fun. It doesn't matter who wins. She promised she would try. Now, as game night came to an end, Emily and I were tied with one more event. Rules are, if it's man versus woman, the lady chooses the final game. She selected N64 Mario Kart. Now, I'm the king of that game. I never lose. I asked her if she really wanted to do that, but she called me a chicken and was big talking that she will beat me at my own game. I should have backed off, but I caved and we raced. Now, common knowledge is let her win, and trust me, I thought about it, but she gets really angry if she thinks you let her win. Her attitude is way worse then. As we started racing, it was a tight race. She kept hitting the banana peels, but kept catching up. The last lap, she started trying to distract me by saying, "He snores when he sleeps," basic middle school insults. Then she tried bumping me to distract me, but I was locked in and focused. I responded back, "At least I don't keep hitting the bananas, love." Very simple and fun. We're in the final leg of the race, and that's when she snapped, "At least I didn't get SA'd by my own family." Oh my gosh. I froze up and dropped the controller, and she passed me and won. She was jumping up and down with joy, screaming and dancing that she finally won. From what my friends told me later, she kept that up for a good while until she saw my face, and that is when she stopped. My friends were in complete shock, asking me if that was true. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe, and I was fighting back all the inner demons I had swirling in my head. I simply got up and wished them a good night, and I started walking. I was in a trance. I didn't know where I was walking to. Emily tried calling and texting, asking where I was, begging for me to call and come home. She kept saying that she is sorry, she just wanted to win so badly, and I don't know why I said that. I simply needed space, and I told her to please stop calling me. I don't know what to do. I loved this girl, and I trusted her, but she used that trust to win a freaking video game? My friends are asking me about my past, and they won't leave me alone. I guess all I'm asking is if there's any way back from this, or is this the end? Do I dump her, or try and work this out? Any advice would be very helpful. Okay, let's jump straight into the comments of this one before we get into the updates. Somebody said, "Man, she got serious issues. In my eyes, there is no coming back from this. How could you ever trust her again? And somebody replied to this, like, dude, yeah, right? Like, what's to say she won't do it again and blame her competitive personality for it? Somebody else said, she used your biggest, deepest wound, one that she only knew about because you trusted her, to win a dumb game. She exposed your biggest, deepest wound to other people without your consent. There is no coming back from this. You shouldn't want to come back from this. How will you ever be able to trust her with anything again? She's shown you who she truly is, and you deserve better. I'm very sorry you had this experience, and I hope you are okay. Okay, and I just have to simply agree with the comments here. There's no doubt about it. This relationship has to be over. Like, even the fact that she is that competitive to the extent that she can't ever have fun, I personally think that is a massive red flag in and of itself. Like, being competitive is one thing, and I'm pretty competitive. But if you're a very competitive person, you have to know when to turn it off, when it's actually affecting other people and ruining the mood. Like, if you're having a games night, and yeah, sure, everyone wants to win, but it's meant to be fun. And if one person is taking it so seriously that it's not fun for other people, then it's just not worth it, and they're being a bad person. Like, don't get me wrong, when I play football, I really want to win, and I will be as competitive as I can possibly be, just because I am naturally like that, right? But if I'm having a games night with mates or something, or like, I don't know, playing a computer game against friends, then like, does it really matter that much? Yeah, sure, I still want to win. But if I lose, am I going to be that like egotistical to say, this has ruined my night, you don't deserve this, I'd do anything to try and win? No, there's a time and a place for that. Now, that's without even talking about the fact that she has brought up your past essay, which is just ridiculous. And of course, with that on top, this relationship, for me, is 100% done. Now, there is an update to this one, which we're going to get into. But first of all, OP left this little edit at the end of the original post saying, I want to thank everyone for their comments and DMs. I've been reading all of them for the past 3 hours. I guess I knew this was the end of this relationship, but after spending 2 years with someone and having strong feelings and trust, I wanted to see if a majority of people could see something else that I didn't that could possibly save it. And reading the comments, I guess I overlooked the massive red flags that Emily had. Okay, so I presume then the comments were saying similar things to me, that even without that comment, that final essay comment, revealing that to, you know, that room full of friends who obviously didn't know, she still had big red flags, which is what I was saying. I decided to sit down with my friend group tonight and tell them about my past. It will be difficult, and I'll text Emily tonight and meet with her tomorrow. I will update tomorrow after that conversation. That's a good point as well. I mean, like, it's tough on your friends to just have this sort of thrown on them, and I'm sure they're not entirely sure how to react, like saying, did that actually happen? Do you want to talk about it, etc.? You'd hope that they would back off and just like let you do what you want to do with that information and come to your own conclusion. And you've said here you're going to chat to them and reveal it. Fine, that's up to you. I don't like the fact that they keep asking you. That's a bit ridiculous. You obviously do need space. But anyway, 2 days later, we got this update. Hey guys, I want to thank everyone again for all the support. It helped me clear up my head and really reflect on the past few months with Emily and finally see the red flags that I ignored or didn't press hard enough on. First of all, I need to get this off my chest. From the ages of 11 through to 13, I was SA'd by my aunt. She'd come over to babysit and she would do the deeds and have me do stuff to her. She would threaten me if I ever spoke out. I tried to ask my parents if she could not babysit, but my mother told me that her sister absolutely loves you and wants to spend time with you since she can't have children. If it wasn't for my dad forgetting his wallet one night, I believe she wouldn't have been caught. My mum went mental and didn't believe any of it, and went on the campaign tour around town saying she is 100% innocent and I am just confused. My dad went into the bottle and tried to enter the shadow realm because he couldn't forgive himself for missing the signs. My mum then threatened me to make an announcement that her sister is not a predator and then attacked me. My dad divorced my mum and she and my aunt moved elsewhere. All these years later, she truly believes her sister didn't do anything. My dad and I are okay, but he doesn't want to be around me much because of the guilt. Secondly, I met with my friends and I told them my story and they all apologized and promised to help protect me in the future with relationships. They told me what happened after the event. Emily was trying to defend herself by claiming, I didn't mean to say it, he took it the wrong way, I just needed to win this, I love him and didn't mean it. sorry, saying I just needed to win this, and by saying that, sort of vindicating or at least trying to explain why you just revealed that unbelievable thing is crazy. Fair enough. She's been calling all of them, begging for them to please help her, quote, win him back and I'll do whatever it takes, and I'll see anyone to help me with my condition. So, I met today with Emily. My friends invited her over and they sat in the other room while we talked. Emily was unhinged. She came flying into the house trying to hug me, but my friends held her back and told her to just sit. I asked her why she said what she said. I don't know. I just needed to win so badly. I followed up with, why does she need to win this one? Because it was your best game and I don't know, I just needed to win. I again asked why she needed to win. What was the importance of winning? And Emily said, through tears, I don't know. I needed to win. She kept repeating the same line over and over. So I asked if she had planned on using my trauma against me and if that is why she chose Mario Kart. I've never seen someone go white so fast. Emily just looked at me and put her hands in her face and blurted out, I can't stand not winning, and I knew you'd get distracted and I could win and finally feel great. Because these past 4 months I've been so depressed from feeling like a loser, and I knew I could win with this plan. Oh my goodness, so she planned to say this and still thought it was a good idea. Jesus. I was in shock and I couldn't believe she said that. I realized that some of the commenters were right. She had this planned. I'm still trying to gain control of my thoughts on this one. You had this planned? I asked. Yes, I didn't think about what would happen after. And when I saw your face, I knew I messed up. Please, I want to get help and I'll do anything. Please don't end this. I asked if this was another competition in her head to win me back. No, I mean, in a way, yes, but not like that. So if you win me back, you'll feel better that you won? I told her I can't trust her anymore. What if we had kids? Will you see them as a competition? If your friends are being flirted with, will you try and get more attention for the win? What if I'm simply doing something and you blurt that out again to win? She had to be escorted out by my friends, and I was told by one of them I should get a restraining order because her mental of losing you may break her mind and she might do whatever it takes to win me back. So again, thank you everyone for all the comments. I'm going to get more help and take a break from dating until I find someone who I can trust 100%, and now my friends will be on extra guard for any Emily sightings and future dating red flags. So there we go, that is it for that story. And I'd love to honestly say that I am surprised by the fact that Emily doubled down and was like, I was just trying to win, I thought it would be alright. I've been so depressed because I've been losing every games night, by the way. Oh, what a loser. But I'm not, because the sort of person that would double down is the sort of person that would pre-plan this and yeah, like actually think, you know what? Okay, I can get away with saying this to try and win at Mario Kart. Terrible, terrible person. I mean, genuinely probably one of the worst people that we've seen on Reddit for a while. Like, I know 2025 has just started, guys, but this woman has used her boyfriend's deepest trauma against him to win a game of Mario Kart. It's an early contender for worst person of the year. My boyfriend keeps disappearing into the bathroom for an hour or more with a stick of butter, and the butter is gone when he finally comes out. This was originally posted on June the 26th, 2020. I am a 24-year-old woman, and I've been dating my boyfriend, who is 30, for 2 years, and we finally moved in together. Ever since we moved in, I've seen a new side of him. It's a very odd issue, and I can't wrap my head around what to do. At first, I started to notice butter was disappearing quickly. I assumed that maybe I had lost track of how much we had, or maybe he was cooking when I wasn't around. I don't know. But one night, a few weeks ago, I saw him try to stealthily take a stick of butter from the fridge, which I pretended not to notice, and he took the butter with him into the bathroom. Now, I have been noticing that my boyfriend has spent an hour or more in the bathroom at times since we moved in, but I've never seen him take the butter before. I was so confused. When he came out of the bathroom about an hour later, I saw no sign of the butter, but I also saw that he did not put the butter back in the fridge. It was gone. I tried to subtly keep an eye on him, and over a week he did this 3 separate times, and each time a stick of butter disappeared. Finally, I said one day, "Where did all our butter go? I hardly used any this week, and it's gone." He pretended to not know and said maybe we'd forgotten to buy it. I said no, we had 4 sticks before, now they're gone. He just acted like it was a mystery and said, guess we should order up some groceries. By now I was getting very confused. So I ordered groceries and I made a point of saying, good to finally have 4 sticks of butter. This should last us quite a while. He made no comments. On the first 2 days, whenever I used a small amount of butter, I would remark about how much butter we had left. Finally, one day, I saw him do it again. He took a stick of butter into the bathroom, was gone for an hour or so, and came back with no butter. I couldn't believe it. So, when I made dinner, I acted shocked that 1 stick of butter was gone. He said maybe we only had 3, but he knew I'd been making a point of it. The very next day, another stick of butter gone. I listened at the bathroom door and I heard sink water running and I thought I heard moaning noises. I was so confused. Finally, this time when he came out, I said, I know he's been taking butter into the bathroom. He got all flustered and said, I must be mistaken, but I said I'd literally seen him take butter into the bathroom and come out without it, and that I know he's been lying to me about the quantity of butter in our fridge. He then started apologizing for misleading, but said, let's just not talk about it. And when he saw I was getting mad, he said, well, what if I just order my own separate, private butter? If he actually said private butter, that is unbelievable. Private butter. Wow. I was like, okay, but what are you doing with the butter? He asked me to promise him to never ask about his butter activities again and to just put this behind us. He said, just look the other way on this one thing, and stressed how it's not a big deal at the end of the day. I was like, okay, I guess. But I've been so confused and even disturbed about it. Like, what is he doing with the butter? Why was he lying about it? Why won't he tell me? I don't even think he's eating it because he's not an overweight guy, and I feel like if somebody ate that much butter, they'd become hefty, but he shows no signs of it. I'm just like, who is this guy? Am I overreacting? Is it just so odd that I see him in a different light and I'm not sure what to do? Should I just ignore it? No, is my answer to that. That is the end of the original post. Goodness me, what have I just read? No, you definitely should not just ignore it. You're definitely not overreacting. This guy is strange. Let's jump straight into some comments before we get into an update for this one. Somebody said, okay, what the flip? Somebody replied, butter is the flip. Somebody else said, I love that he acted like buying his own butter would fix the issue. Yes, his own private butter. And then somebody else said, yes, exactly what I've been saying. The phrase private butter really sent me. This is where this woman's boyfriend draws the line. Okay, so let's get into the update for this. This was posted on r/today I effed up, and the title, and this comes just 1 day later after the original post. This morning, I said, look, yes, you should buy private personal butter for your activities, but I said I need to know what you do with the butter. He got very quiet and then said, fine, I'll tell you just this once. And he told me. He told me everything. I was so mortified and confused. I cannot tell you what it is, but I will say it is a sensual activity, extremely sensual. It's definitely an inappropriate use of butter. I cannot even type what it is due to how graphic it is. Well, I will say that is a real shame because I knew it was going to be mental and I really wanted to know exactly what it was. Maybe if I subscribe to OP's OnlyFans, I'll find out. But for now, we're in the dark. Sorry, guys. Anyway, let's carry on. On the one hand, it's just butter, but on the other, I can no longer see him the same way. I'm staying at my parents'. To make matters worse, a friend of his found my other post and sent it to him, saying, lol, this must be about you. I guess maybe he used to do it in college too? Wait, you're telling me other people know about this? So weird. He's now furious, and now other people I know IRL know what he does with butter. He is angry at me for exposing his butter-based proclivities. Now I've probably ruined my relationship and everyone knows my business, causing me shame and humiliation. I can't believe what he does with butter though, and I don't think I can be with somebody who does things like that. I consider it a momentous screw-up for me to have ever confronted him about it. This is my mistake because I can now never unknow what I know. Okay, and there we go. As long as OP is saying it's their mistake because they now know, and not their mistake because they needed to know, as in they needed to know what was going on, and you know, they made the mistake because they should have just left it alone and been fine with it, then I'm okay with it. If they're saying it was a mistake because I should have just been like, oh, it's fine, it's just butter, then no, I completely disagree. But dang, I just want to know. I really want to know. Even if it's the deepest, darkest, weirdest, kinkiest stuff ever, I want to know, what is this guy doing? Now, somebody in the comments has said this. No, what is it? He shoves the butter up his butt? He uses it like a butt thing until slightly melted, then licks it, then back inside the butt and repeats the process until the butter's gone? What does he do with the butter? That is the question on everyone's lips. Now guys, comment down below. What do you think this person does with the butter? Remember this, that YouTube is pretty strict with guidelines on what you can and can't write on the platform. But hey, let's just go crazy for once. Let's see if your comments get flagged, deleted instantly, or they're live on YouTube. I'm probably going to be the only one that will be able to know, and I'm sure I'll have quite a lot of like flagged comments to go through on this episode. But genuinely, I mean, you can just censor it. I want to know, what do you think's going on here? Honestly, while reading this, quite a few things came into my mind. Firstly, I thought, is there a chance he gets the butter and whilst doing things to himself, rubs it on his nipples? You know, that could be something. Secondly, he could just be eating it, could just love a bit of butter, and he wants to be private. He wants privacy when he does that. Thirdly, and I'm going to be honest, this is probably what I think is happening, I reckon that because he's in there for an hour, he is requiring that butter to melt. And therefore, I'm inclined to believe that the final comment that I've just read there is what's happening. Now, some of you out there might think, wow, that's really a hot and attractive. For me, I would disagree with you. And I would think, if my partner was doing that, that's a bit weird. If you're going to do it, at least involve me, please. Now, what I will say to end this, and again, I do want your comments down below about what's going on here, but there's definitely a joke about, I can't believe it's not butter in here somewhere. And I'm sad that I've not found it. So comment down below. Give me something there. Let's, if we can, move on to our next story. Okay, now moving on to our next story. Don't worry, guys. This one is not as just graphically insane as the first. Some of you might be upset about that. Some of you have clicked off this episode already. That's on you. Anyway, 2 years ago, I bought 5 Australian classic cars cheap for sale from the widow of a deceased backyard collector. The widow has died, and now the grandson has threatened to sue as he wanted the cars. The grandson is a lawyer. This was originally posted on December the 15th, 2018. I'm close friends with a co-worker, and we've helped his mother in her 80s with house maintenance. His mother's neighbour, I'll call her Elaine, was in her 90s in 2016 when Elaine's husband, who was in a home, died. While doing maintenance on my co-worker's mother's house, I drove there in my 1975 Falcon, and Elaine came out to ask me to have a look at some cars I might like that had belonged to her husband. I won't go into detail, except 3 were in good drivable condition and worth a decent figure, and 2 more were ruined but good parts cars. At the time, I couldn't afford anywhere near what they were genuinely worth. 2 are at least in the top 5 desirable Australian classics. I told her what they could fetch on the open market, but she was happy to take $5,000 for all 5 cars, well under their value. She wanted to make sure they went to someone who would appreciate them, and I paid for and collected them a week later, and I still have the 3 good ones, 2 now on historic registration, and the other in storage. Elaine passed away in the middle of this year, and her grandson is on the warpath over the cars. He's found my contact details and phoned me several times, threatening to sue for effectively stealing the cars from his grandmother, and has turned up at my door once, demanding the return of the cars. I've not been served or received anything in writing from him in a legal sense, only his business card, which sounds dodgy. I've verified that he's an actual lawyer, as he claims, through a website of his employer, which lists him with a photo as specializing in commercial and insurance law, just like his business card. I'd have expected if there was a real legal issue with the ownership of the cars, it would be in relation to the grandmother's estate proceedings, and I'd be contacted by mail by someone acting as executor, not via phone calls and doorstop visits by one angry, smug idiot acting like it's happening between me and him alone. Since I'm not a lawyer and my presumptions could be completely out, I'm posting here. This is on r/Australian legal to, I suppose, ask the people of Reddit, what do I do? If need be, I could now afford the market price of all the cars. Is the grandson likely to have a case, and should I find a lawyer of my own? Okay, let's jump straight into the comments here of the original post. Somebody said, not a lawyer, but if Elaine's husband left them to her in his will, she was free to do with them as she pleased. Ergo, the grandson has no claim. He'd be banking on your uncertainty of that to strong-arm you into cutting a deal. Don't ignore any official summons or claims, but you can safely tell him to sod off over the phone. If you want to get really petty, you could contact his law firm and complain about him. But as long as he wasn't intimating that his employer was in any way involved, it's actually none of their business. So they could tell you, cool, so what? OP replied, thanks. Banking on my uncertainty is a good way to describe the vibe that I'm getting from him. He's not exactly throwing his law firm's name around, but it is on the business card that he gave me. Now for car fans, OP actually gave a little bit more information in the comments as to what the cars are. I feel more comfortable describing them now after reading the responses here. One registered is an XY GT replica in nice shape built from a Fairmont. The other registered is an XB Fairmont Coupe in excellent original condition. And the third I'm still working on getting back on the road is an XA Sedan Falcon 506. Wow. As a car fan myself, those are some crazy cool words and symbols, man. And letters. The last two were wrecks and have already been parted out, and the good bits kept. A spare XA sedan and an XW that looks like it spent 30 years as yard art. The XW collapsed at the talk boxes and plenum while being trailered and nearly came off in two pieces, but it was worth it for the glass and trim alone. I'm so bored of what I'm reading, goodness me. Cars are just so boring, aren't they? And I'm saying all this knowing that Editor Steve-O is listening to this right now and he loves cars. So deal with this, Editor Steve-O. Deal with this. And if you don't know who Editor Steve-O is, he edits all these episodes. And he's probably angry right now. But do I care? No.
Perfection.
Let's get into the update. This was posted 13 days later. From my original post a couple of weeks ago, I spoke with my co-worker about the issue, and he talked with his mother, who clued me into her neighbour, Elaine from my previous post, not having any grandsons. Wait, what? Wow. Sorry, let me read this again. I spoke with my co-worker about the issue, and he talked with his mother, who clued me in to her neighbour, who was Elaine, not having any grandsons. Wow. My co-worker's mother is still in contact with Elaine's son and daughter, as they own and still work on Elaine's old house next door. She put them in contact with me. They wanted to know who it was who was actually threatening what about the cars, as Elaine has no grandsons, and we spoke. They identified the lawyer grandson as an old ex. He was once a partner of, but not married to one of Elaine's granddaughters for a few years. He's also known to be in a lot of debt, which might actually explain the desperate hunting for valuable items. Okay. Goodness me, a fake grandson story. I was not expecting this. Elaine's son and daughter reiterated that their dad had left instructions to Elaine for the cars to go to someone who cherished them, and they were happy they did, and glad to hear from me that they're still being looked after together. I haven't contacted the faux grandson's law firm yet. I have a lot of evidence of his misrepresentations to me, and after Googling NSW law, I'm not 100% sure of the legality of all of it, especially about sharing my home security and dash cam recordings directly to the other firm, or even speaking directly to them. I'll go through my own legal representation there as a filter on what I need to give them to make sure they know of his behaviour linked to their firm. And before we leave things with a couple of more very, very small updates. Firstly, fake grandson came around twice more. I now have multiple records of him visiting my residence, threats via text, and many phone calls to me after I asked him to not contact me again except in writing. Complaints have been made through my lawyer to his firm and relevant regulatory bodies. I informed him of the complaints on Thursday and reiterated not to contact me again, and I haven't heard a peep from him since. And finally, one more last update. Fake grandson had already been dismissed from the firm before my lawyer and I complained, and he already has complaints against him for other reasons. Well, there we go. Now, I'm actually not sure and I don't think it's implied here, or yeah, I can't really work out when the fake grandson was actually sacked, whether it was before this all happened in the first place and he was just using the company because he's like, I've already been sacked, might as well just use them and I've still got the business card, or it was during this whole ordeal, not because of it, but because of other things he was probably doing. But yeah, you know what, fair play to the guy. Being a fake grandson, like it's so good. And this would probably work on, sadly, this would probably work on more gullible and naive people, or people who were probably scared of the law. This is the beauty of Reddit, by the way. Like, this is why I used Reddit long before I knew that sort of like posts and stories even existed on the platform, for just genuine great advice like this. Like, this guy did not know what to do in this situation, made a post on r/OzLegal, and then got really good advice from people who are actually lawyers and just general people who, I suppose, know the law or have been in similar situations, or just know more than OP. That's the beauty of Reddit. And the second beauty of Reddit is that we get stories like this. Wonderful stuff. Yeah, I mean, he's the dumbest lawyer I've ever come across. I suppose he probably was in serious debt to do something as risky as this. This has to be illegal, right? It just has to be. If not, then, you know, you're getting sued by your ex-company, probably by this guy as well, probably by NSW. Who knows? But yeah, a very, very satisfying end to this one. But genuinely, I'm slightly impressed by the fact that he was like, you know what, I spot an opportunity to be a fake grandson here. What sort of like conniving little rat comes up with that idea? Someone with no morals, obviously, but yeah, great story. And being completely serious, I'm glad that justice was served. Am I the jerk for refusing to drop charges in exchange for saving my family? So the original post for this one came back in September of 2024. I am a 33-year-old man, and I met my wife, who is also 33, in college. It was a long-term physical relationship that turned serious at the end of our senior year. After graduation, I didn't have plans, so I decided to move to her hometown, major southern city. I didn't know anybody, so we were together 24/7 and moved in together within a year. During this time, I met her family a few times. She had a huge extended family, where her mum, Sharon, was the matriarch. Her dad died in a workplace accident, and her mum got a lot of money. She was smart and invested and is doing well. All of Sharon's siblings and nieces and nephews look to her for advice on all major life decisions. She's paid for school, weddings, and helped start businesses. My wife has 2 brothers who I always got along with. We'd hang out independent of my wife a few times a year. We got married after 3 years, and when my son was born, Sharon bought us a house 3 blocks from hers. We'd lived in a downtown loft-style apartment, and this was honestly a relief. But with the house came Sharon constantly being in my life, coming in the house unannounced, unsolicited advice, and snide remarks at my expense. Eventually, 18 months later, we had a blow-up fight, and I moved my family across town to an apartment. My wife was annoyed, and our relationship has deteriorated. Sharon hates me and has turned most of their family against me. I didn't see or go to any of her family events for over a year. My wife still saw her family, but because I wasn't invited and they were over 30 minutes away, it was much less. Sharon went from seeing her grandson almost every day to once a month. So of course, her hate for me went through the roof. The incident. My wife had to work, and I was asked to take my son to his cousin's birthday party. The party was at Sharon's house, and if it wasn't my son's first cousin, 6 months apart, I would have said no. It was tense the moment I walked in. Father of the birthday boy, my brother-in-law, greeted me, but nobody else spoke to me. I didn't mind, I just sat in the corner on my phone. This apparently annoyed Sharon because I was being rude. An argument ensues, and I announced that I'm leaving with my son. Sharon said, "You can go, but my grandbaby is staying." At this point, I lost my cool and I started cursing her out. I woke up on the front lawn. Apparently, my 2 brother-in-laws beat the trash out of me in front of my kid. 2 of her cousins were helping me up and told me just to leave. I immediately called the police and said that I was assaulted and my child was kidnapped. The police came and both brothers were arrested. Sharon lost her mind on the police, and my wife drove up as her mother was being arrested for refusing to release my son. Her mum was eventually released, but her brothers were arraigned on assault charges. Now, the father of the birthday boy had an assault charge from college, so he is facing some serious consequences. My wife is mad at everyone, but asked me to drop charges. I not only refused, but I got restraining orders for all 3 of them. Her mother isn't allowed to be near our kid, and her brothers have court dates early next year. I told her I would think about it, but I think I would rather get divorced. I honestly want to keep my family, but I don't believe she'll ever abandon her family for me. If I drop charges now, I doubt I can bring them back later. So, am I the jerk for not trying to save my family? Okay, before we get into the update for this one, and there is actually a little edit from OP as well, in which he tells how his wife found this post as it blew up overnight on Reddit when it was originally posted. Let's first of all jump into some comments because we get a little bit more information from OP there as well. So OP has replied to a comment saying about how the state should press charges, or in theory always would press charges, not the victim. He says, I just want to comment on this because it keeps coming up, and you are 100% right. In the initial confrontation, the cops asked if I wanted them arrested, and I said yes. I was more bruised than bloody, and they were willing to let it go as a family dispute. That's where the "what did you expect to happen" conversation came from. I'm not pressing charges per se, but I'm not letting it go. I've done 2 interviews with the police, and I've been fully cooperating. If I stopped, they might drop the charges because they seemed more annoyed than helpful. I doubt the younger brother will get more than a slap on the wrist. My wife's oldest brother, though, with the prior, is in a lot more trouble. He is the one that everyone is worried about. Also, Sharon never went to jail. When my wife arrived, Sharon was being escorted to a car. My wife and her 2 uncles got Sharon to calm down and they let her go. She wasn't being violent, but she was cursing and blocking them from entering the house. The only thing positive about the arrest, and Sharon's almost arrest, was it made getting a restraining order way easier. But even that took a month. Also, I'd never talked to a lawyer for any reason, or had any trouble with police. I honestly don't know how any of this works. I just found out the difference between parole and probation a few weeks ago. Now, somebody else made a comment about Sharon, which OP replied to. They said, Sharon is not a good mother. Her habit of buying everything for everyone is robbing her grown children of having their own achievements, which builds character, mental toughness, maturity, and pride in themselves. A better parent would have matched their savings for down payments. Obviously, there was a price to be paid for her investments in their lives. She's able to make major decisions in their lives. She's able to walk right in like she owns the place because she does. It sounds like she is an overbearing, iron-fisted, suffocating presence in their lives. OP replied to this, saying, I keep feeling like I'm defending this woman, but trust me, I'm not. She started flipping houses in the 90s before it was a thing. She always kept her job as a nurse and kept investing in new properties. She helped both her brothers start their own construction business, and 5 nieces and nephews now work in real estate. Her 2 smartest moves were 1, she was an early iPod user from her time as a nurse and invested heavy in Apple stock in 2002. And 2, she pulled out of big real estate investments in 2006, a little early, and sat on her money until 2010. Then she bought up a ton of property. That is to say, the woman is smart and accomplished, so everyone sees her as this messiah of wisdom. So when she deemed me a jerk for not wanting her in my house constantly, and then a bigger jerk for moving my family across town, everyone fell in line. If Sharon thinks he is bad, then he must be bad. Okay, now let's get into the edit that OP left on this. He says, this blew up overnight. It was actually my wife's cousin who DM'd me because she found it. She was there that day and told me to add some more context because her family is getting destroyed in the comments. She's right, so here are a few more things. 1, I don't think anyone is evil in this situation. Everyone loves Sharon and her advice, except me. She's not a mean person, but we are polar opposites in many ways. My wife is the baby, an only girl, so I'm sure that has a lot to do with our conflict. Sharon losing her mind on the police was uncharacteristic, and even I was surprised. My wife is a great mum and partner, but her inability to be independent of her mum's influence is our issue. She is mad at her brothers and isn't talking to either. She's also mad at her mum for starting the argument and refusing to release our son. She's just trying to find a middle ground. I genuinely think she hopes a fresh start can save our marriage. Until we moved into that house, I'd say our relationship was good. As far as her brothers and the assault goes, I remember the first hit, but I was dazed immediately. The last thing I remember was flailing like a child while getting hit a few more times. What I don't remember is my kid screaming to stop hitting my daddy and then picking me up and dropping me on the lawn like trash. I have to acknowledge that my pride hurt more than my bruises. I genuinely liked both her brothers, and to be fair, F you and female dog came out of my mouth when I cursed out Sharon. I'm not 100% innocent. This is the South, so the police even said, "What did you expect to happen?" Oh, okay, that is where the "what did you expect to happen" comment comes from. I don't know if I stop pursuing this, if it would continue or not. Okay, so there we go. That is it for the initial post. We did, however, get this update 4 months later, just a week ago at the time of recording, January the 20th, 2025. Hello. Let me start by saying thank you to the supporters and F you to the jerks. Reddit is one heck of a place to get perspective on things. The only place you could be called a good father and a cuck in the same thread. I don't think I've ever related or just completely supported a point more than that. That is brilliant. I've been wanting to write an update and answer questions for a while, but after my original post, many Reddit lawyers reached out and told me to stop talking immediately. Since things were very uncertain and my divorce wasn't settled, I decided to not respond or update anything until things calmed down. A lot has happened to so many people involved, so I think I'm just going to break it down by person, starting off with myself. I moved back to the West Coast, where I'm originally from. I decided to move forward with the divorce, so I moved home. Furthermore, I had nothing left for me in that city, as I only had a few friends, my son, and a lot of bad memories. My ex and son cried a lot the day I left, and that hurt my soul, but it was best for all parties involved. So, I moved back home to be around my family and my support system. I got a good paying job, and I'll be subletting a 2-bedroom apartment starting next month. My son spent the holidays with me, staying with my parents, and I plan to see him on Easter. Going forward, laid out in our custody agreement, my son will stay with his mother until he is 12. I'll get him Easter and summers, and we'll switch Christmas and Thanksgiving every year. When he's 12 and needs a father figure, he'll come and live with me until he's 18. What? When he's 12 and needs a father figure, he'll come and live with me until he is 18. I'm not like OP, I've been on your side the entire time here. I don't get this at all, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and I'll give my thoughts at the end. Anyway, I talk to my son every day on the phone for at least an hour, and I'll try to fly out there a few times a year. I can't shake the feeling that a piece of me is missing, and I wish it was just my son, but I miss my wife too. Now on to my ex-wife. So the divorce is basically settled, and I obviously didn't move away with her. In the end, she saw my post and saw the comments and realized that she shouldn't have asked me to stop pursuing the case. She asked again, saying, "We could move and just get away from my family." Too much had happened though, and our relationship was a shell of what it was. We both said and did things we forgave but can't forget. I wish this was a movie and I could just say love conquers all or screw her, she's evil, but that isn't real life. I'm torn between both loving this person and knowing we aren't right for each other. While she didn't want to move forward with the divorce, she didn't fight me on it either. We were able to settle everything without lawyers and only use them for paperwork and fine details. We talk daily because of our son, and she says she is doing well, but last time I FaceTimed her, I can tell she isn't eating. My sister said it's post-breakup hotness, whatever that means, but she looks more sick than hot. She hasn't spoken to her brothers since that day and blames them a lot for what happened. She and Sharon's relationship is also very strained and they barely talk as well. Ironically, she is hardly speaking to the family that she was so desperately trying to keep together. I honestly wish she would talk to her family again because I do worry about her a lot. People were very mean to my ex-wife, saying she was a terrible mother and wife. I think she lives for and would die for her family, and all her actions were to keep us together. She told me her 2 biggest regrets were moving into Sharon's house and moving out of our apartment. Those 2 actions caused most of our problems. She's a great mother to my child and I will always have her back. Now for the brothers. I didn't expect much as far as punishment in this case. They both pled out to a simple assault which only had minimal consequences. Both of them spent a night in jail, got fines and anger management. The older brother had a prior incident that I mentioned earlier. That was a bar fight in his early 20s. He hit a guy with a bottle and got an assault charge. But since that case was over 15 years ago and he's married, a pillar of the community, etc., he was given probation for a year and that was that. Both brothers have partners in life and the oldest one is married. I've known his wife for many years and we've always been friendly. Because of the restraining order, both spouses reached out on behalf of the brothers to speak to me. I barely knew the younger brother's girlfriend, but since I knew the wife, I spoke to her. She said both brothers regretted their decision and she asked me to lift the restraining order and not pursue charges. We had a brief conversation, but I simply told her I don't forgive her husband and brother-in-law and I'm moving forward with both. As we ended the conversation, I told her to not call me again and I haven't heard from either brother since. I don't know anything beyond what the ex tells me and she's not speaking to them. So, Sharon. I did have it out with Sharon and it went about as well as you can imagine. Here is a little backstory to our relationship. Let's start by saying that my ex and her family are devout Christians who go to church weekly. I'm a lapsed Catholic who goes to church 3 times a year. I live a very moral and ethical life, but my belief system isn't centered on the church. Furthermore, I consider myself a moderate liberal and their family is moderate conservatives, i.e., I'm down the Second Amendment and Sharon supported gay marriage. Ideologically, we were far apart, but we agreed on the important things in life. The real problems began when my son was going to be baptized. My mum wanted to get our son baptized Catholic, and Sharon wanted him baptized Protestant. Lots of snide remarks about Catholics were said, but I let it go at the time. The ex and I decided to wait and let our son decide, which Sharon hated. When my ex started going back to church and I wasn't in attendance, that further widened the divide. Her family would go by Sharon or someone else's house after church for lunch and dinner, and I either showed up later or not at all. Every time Sharon didn't agree with the decision we made as a couple in regard to our lives, especially my son's life, she would start leaning on my wife and pressuring her behind the scenes. We would literally make a decision and she would go to her mum's house and then come back with a different opinion. The most frustrating part is she stopped trying to talk to me at all. She would literally just call my wife and get her to change her decision. The big fight that led us to moving out was that my son wanted to play soccer and not football. But good lad, by the way, a massively superior sport. Well done, that man. Let's carry on. But my wife's family is a huge football family. We agreed for him not to play football because he didn't want to play and are concerned about CTE. My wife comes home one day and does a 180, saying that she signed him up for football. We start arguing and Sharon comes in the house unannounced and joins in the conversation, saying, "We decided it would be good for him." I got annoyed. I told them, Sharon is not my son's parent and my ex shouldn't be so weak when her mum is pressuring her to do something that we decided not to do. Then she said the words that sealed the deal. "My opinion should matter. I bought the house." I started looking for a new apartment that night and I never looked back. So when we talked, neither of us raised our voices, but it wasn't a nice conversation. I started, and I apologized for calling her a female dog, and she apologized for trying to keep my son without my permission. She flat out told me she wished my daughter never met me and that I've ruined her family, that her sons have criminal records now, one already did, and that's all my fault. She then started crying about not seeing my son and how she lost her only daughter. I told her she was manipulative and used her money to control the family, that she only didn't like me because she couldn't control my decisions like her weak-willed family. I also told her she consistently overstepped her bounds in regards to my child and my marriage, and she put her own selfish interest ahead of her daughter's happiness. After spending an hour calling each other jerks in different ways, we ended things in the same place. In the end, I told my ex that her mum could see my son because Sharon loves him unconditionally and he loves her. Call me stupid, but I think family is a big part of your upbringing. My mum isn't around him enough and every child needs a good grandma. The ex said that she'd been to a few family situations that were hard to avoid. Wedding, funeral, Thanksgiving, but she leaves when her brothers come and my son doesn't leave her side. Sharon has seen my son and he's played with his cousin, the birthday boy from the original story, but she's keeping him from the family for the time being. Okay, now on to my son. He is having a hard time with everything. It's not the fight, he thinks we were wrestling. He misses me a lot and cries on some of our phone calls. He's in therapy, and all the sessions are about missing his dad and why we can't live together. It's been a few months, and it is slowly getting better, but we've ruined his childhood, and I take my share of responsibility in that. Now finally, the cousin. She is my wife's first cousin, but they are more like sisters. Sharon is her aunt by marriage, and she was the first to warn me about the family. She was also eviscerated by the comment section for having me add to the story. She told me I was out of line for calling Sharon a female dog, but didn't feel I deserved to get beat up. Likewise, she also grabbed my son when the fight happened and took him away. She was the one who told my son we were wrestling, and she called my wife to come immediately. When Sharon was being handcuffed, the cousin came outside holding my son. I told her to give him to me, but she pointed at my swollen face and asked if she could hold him. I trusted her enough in that situation to care for him, so I respected her enough to add those details. She didn't deserve the trashy comments either. I presume, I didn't actually see any of that myself, guys, but I presume that, people were getting a little bit annoyed on Reddit for, the cousins saying to OP, no, you need to add these details. It's making the family look terrible. But yeah, I suppose with this additional information and context, we can see that the OP does trust his cousin in this regard and during the story. So then, the conclusion. In the end, everyone in their family read the original post. But because of divorce and assault cases, no one directly contacted me other than my ex. It wasn't a hit, to say the least, but I only care that it hurt my ex's feelings. I think seeing everything written out from my perspective opened her eyes. Obviously, some things were left out and broad strokes were made to explain complex situations. In the end, she said I didn't lie, but she thinks I painted her family in a horrible light. We thought about writing a joint update, but we're not talky enough to make that happen. I told my ex about this post, and I asked if she wanted to read it before I posted it, and she told me to just write whatever I want. Nobody won here, we all lost. Okay, so that is it for the post and the update. However, I've picked out a couple of comments that I think are very important, and I want to speak about myself. But first of all, yeah, somebody has asked, and I think, as you can tell when I was reading that, this was sort of the main thing that I had to interject and actually speak about and question. Somebody said, I understand everything else, but did you really have to abandon your kid? OP replied, I knew I would get destroyed for this, but abandon is a strong word. I didn't abandon my son. I left for better opportunities in life for both of us, both mentally and financially. My chosen profession has more opportunities here. I was only there for my wife and child. My career picked up during the pandemic because I could work remotely, but in-office work is becoming mandatory again. I was already going to have to quit or move companies, so the timing was right. Also, my mental health is 10 times better now that I've left the city. For months, I gave my child fake smiles while trying to be a good father. I was a shell of the man I wanted to be. I'm still broken by what's happened, but I'm in a better place mentally. And in the long term, I'll be better financially. And I mean, you can probably guess what I'm going to say here, guys. This seems unbelievably selfish, and I will get to my thoughts in full. But someone replied to this saying pretty much the same thing. Quote, you left for better opportunities in life for both of us. For you though, yes, but actually for him, not really. OP then finally replied to this saying, yeah, your assessment of my situation is understandable, but me working for less money and being constantly unhappy isn't good for my son. If I could have stayed in state, trust me, I would have, but the economy is effed. I used all my savings to continue paying bills, and I live with my parents for free to start over. Maybe I could have found happiness there, but I didn't see it happening. We are co-parenting the best we can. Okay, so there we go. That is the end of the story. I have so much I want to talk about. But yes, the first thing I do want to focus on, and that is the reason I read those comments at the end, is that I can't help but feel that OP is just being very selfish here. The fact that he said that his own son doesn't need a father figure until 12 is so ridiculous. I actually thought he was joking for a second. But a kid not needing a father figure until they're 12, and then what? When they become 12, they then do need a father figure? Why 12, first of all? And secondly, are you dumb? Secondly, I'm not sure I agree with like the I need to do this for me. Yeah, if I'd stayed, I would have been with my kid, but it would have been worse for him. And yeah, maybe worse financially, sure. But I don't think it would have been worse for him mentally you staying around and him not crying and wondering where his dad is and going through therapy because his dad isn't there. It also, and I think this is probably the main thing, it sounds as if, according to your ex, like she was fine with that as well. It wasn't as if she was the one that was like, no, I don't want you to be in his life at all. You can only see him, what, like 3 times a year, which is ridiculous. It sounded as if she was like, you know, pretty chill with you still being in her life and his life. And maybe, I don't know, but maybe she didn't even want the divorce in the first place after realizing just what had gone on and potentially the way that her mum had manipulated her for all those years. Who knows about that? But yeah, it wasn't as if you were shoved out of your son's life. You just chose not to be in it anymore, which I think is very selfish. Like, isn't that sort of the point of being a parent? You sacrifice yourself a lot of the time for the future or even just the current like well-being of your children. I don't know. I'm not a dad, but I feel like any good dad would do that. I just want to go to one more comment here. And this is the main thing that all the comments are saying is just they cannot get over how messed up the custody arrangement is and how bad they feel for the boy because he's just in a terrible spot now. Somebody said, you know, it's okay. The kid won't need a father figure until he's 12. And then they say, I look at my 11-year-old son though right now, who is right this moment absolutely idolizing his father. They spend time in the shed together, building things, working on cars and bikes. They play games together. They learn about Pokemon and dinosaurs together. They have boy jokes that us girls don't really find quite as funny as they do. Of course, if you're a boy, you know that. He talks about clothes he likes that dad wears, what kind of work he might do that dad can help teach him about. He's learning things from his dad that he could never from me, long before the age of 12. And so much of it can't be found in a daily hour-long phone call. And I scroll through all the comments and they're the same. So look, while reading that story, there were lots of things that I did want to talk about. But ultimately, do they even matter when your dad is just doing this to you and acting in this way? Not really. I mean, we know that every family has people that you don't get on with or that don't get on with each other, right? It's just like part and parcel of life. And there are always going to be crazy disputes. And on the one hand, you could say that Sharon is a bad person because she is so involved in everyone's lives. You could also argue the complete opposite, that she has given lots of her family so much and they owe her a lot. And I think that is, you know, it's a pretty sort of like logical way of looking at it, but sorry, like if someone has given you a house, then you do owe them a lot. Like, yeah, I wouldn't like it if someone had keys and just came in at any moment and was deciding on every single decision that happened in my life. Of course, there's a line, but also you have a really nice house because of this woman for free. So there is that. But as I said, like, who really cares when OP, the dad, is acting like this? I don't know. I feel like that just sort of trumps everything bad that we've seen in the story that's going on, even with the brother-in-laws. I mean, look, you never want to get in a scrap, but if my dad was being beaten up, but then actually turns out he didn't want to be with me or raise me, would I really care? Not really. Don't know. It's probably a pretty cynical way of looking at it. I just think I find it hard to sort of feel for OP when he's seeing his kid 3 times a year out of choice. Am I the jerk for punching my husband's ex-wife? My husband's ex-wife, who we will call Shelly, hates me, and I'm not a big fan of hers either. She has high conflicts and has been putting my stepson in the middle of her rubbish since the beginning. She had him listen at our door and report back what I said. She even called CPS on me for having a medical marijuana card. Nothing came of it. She'll tell anyone that will listen that I stole her family from her and I destroyed her life. My husband had been divorced from her for 8 years when I met him. I just think that backstory is important. A couple of days ago, I took our daughter, who was 4, to the park in our subdivision to play. As I was pushing her on the swings, I saw Shelly pull up. I immediately grabbed my daughter and started walking back home. Shelly began to follow me and started yelling insults and threats at me. I dialed 911 and I told them what was going on, so we stayed on the line. She called my daughter a half-breed, I'm black and my husband is white, and then continued to follow me down the street hurling insults. I told her to leave us alone and I've called the police, but that just made her more aggressive. By that point I was in front of my house and my garage door was up, so I told my daughter to go inside and get her dad. I turn around and Shelly is running full speed towards me with her arm drawn back. I punched her dead in the throat.
She fell on the ground and was gasping for air. I dropped to the ground to ask if she was okay, but she continued to try to swing at me as she gasped for air. The cops then arrived and put her in handcuffs because she started to fight them. They put us in separate areas and talked to us. She told them that I hit her first, but my husband was already outside with the footage ready to show the police. They asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I said yes. This is where people are saying I'm wrong. We live in a small town and people got wind of what happened, and almost everyone is saying I'm wrong because Shelley is 5'4", maybe 130 pounds, and I'm 5'10" and weigh about 180 and I weightlift. People are saying I should have gone easier on her and I could have really hurt her. They've also said that I've done enough and charges weren't necessary. Of course, my husband, my stepson and my family are on my side, but I've gotten some nasty messages from people in my town calling me a monster and a bully. I feel like I was just defending myself, but I want some unbiased opinions because now I feel like I might have taken it too far and I'm starting to doubt myself. So, am I the jerk here? Alright, let's get into some comments straight away before I give my thoughts and then we get into the update. Somebody said, "You're not the jerk. You were defending yourself against a physical threat and your actions were reasonable given the circumstances. Shelley's behaviour was unacceptable and she escalated the situation by following you, yelling insults and making threats. When she charged at you with her arm drawn back, you had every right to protect yourself. The criticism from people in your town seems misguided, focusing on your physical size and strength rather than the facts of the situation. The fact that Shelley is smaller than you doesn't mean you should have allowed her to attack you without defending yourself. It's also important to note that Shelley's behaviour has been problematic for a long time, including putting your stepson in the middle of her conflicts and making false reports to CPS. Her actions have shown a pattern of aggression and manipulation. You did the right thing by defending yourself and pressing charges. Don't let the opinions of others make you doubt your actions. You prioritize your safety and the safety of your child, and that is something to be proud of." Another commenter agreed, "You're not the jerk. Shelley is an idiot to try and swing on someone bigger, taller, and stronger than her. And why? Because you didn't react to her insults? Instead, you asked her to leave you alone and then called the cops. Had you not turned around and seen her running towards you, ready to hit you, she could have caused you great damage. Instead, you threw one punch to keep her away. Too bad your fist is at her throat level. She should have thought about that before she tried to attack you. Do not doubt yourself. You defended yourself from someone who intended to do you harm. You didn't continue to wail on her. You weren't the aggressor. She stepped on your property and threatened you and your child. The people in your town are idiots. Fight rumor with truth. Post the footage. Show the charges. You were within your rights, period. And I defy anyone to have been in the same position who wouldn't have gotten into a defensive mode like you did." Wow, what a comment. I agree with all of that, by the way. Somebody else said, "Not the jerk. It's all recorded from the time she approached you at the park and attacked you at your home. I wonder if it's possible to charge her with a hate crime." OP replied to this, "They charged her with assault and I'm getting a restraining order." Somebody also said OP should tell her husband to get full custody of his son, which is interesting. She replied saying, "My stepson is 18 and has lived with us since he was 8. Wow, so her husband already does have full custody then. Well, I suppose maybe not, but he's lived with you for a long time now, which is good. And finally, somebody said, "Nope, you're not the jerk. She came at you while you were trying to keep your child safe. And 8 years, she needs to move on." It's a great point, really. But OP says, "I don't think she ever will. My husband is a great guy, and she really did mess up. He truly loved her, but she was too toxic to accept it. Now, I think she has a lot of regrets. Her aggression definitely got worse after I had my daughter because she wanted a girl." Alright, I would normally give my thoughts here, but I feel like I completely agree with the comments. OP is not the jerk. It's very simple. This woman is crazy, so there's no point. Let's just get into the update. Now, this was posted just one day after the original post. It hasn't even been 24 hours since my last post, but I feel you guys deserve an update and for me to clarify some things. Firstly, my daughter and I are okay, and thank you all so much for your support. My daughter heard what was said, but fortunately has no idea what it means. She also didn't see any of the physical violence that occurred. Secondly, Shelley is still in jail. Luckily for us, her family doesn't even like her, so no one's bailed her out. She also had a warrant, so she'll probably be sitting there for a while. Next, for everyone worried about my stepson. He's just my son in our house. Thank you so much for the concern, but he's 18 years old and I've been his mother figure for the past 10. He knows his mum's antics and he's in therapy and he's okay. For the people that private messaged me to say that I alienated my stepson from his mum, well, shame on you. You guys have no idea what this kid has dealt with through the years, and he is so strong. I also would like to clarify that I did press charges. I spoke to my lawyer, who's my aunt, and she said I actually have plenty of evidence from over the years to sue Shelley for the emotional pain she's caused me, and I will be pursuing that. I'm going to make it hurt, so she knows that this behaviour will not be tolerated. I'm also in the process of getting a restraining order, which will not take long at all, given all of the evidence. Lastly, this whole situation has been so eye-opening about the lack of support I have living in this town. I've stayed because I thought it was best for my family, but after speaking with my husband and stepson, we all realised it's best for everyone if we move and start fresh. If anyone has suggestions of diverse places to move with a good school system for our daughter, please comment down below. I want to thank you all so much again for your help. I felt more support from strangers on the internet than I have from the community I've lived in for years. I will continue to keep you all updated with whatever I can as I continue the process. Let's just finish off with a couple of relevant comments. Somebody asked what was the reason for OP's husband's divorce from his ex, and unbelievably OP said she hit him in front of their son and fractured his eye socket. I mean, look, we already knew that Shelley was crazy, but yes, that is mental. Somebody else commented, make sure Shelley actually has enough assets and income to make suing her worth it. You know the old saying, you can't get blood out of a turnip. She sounds massively emotionally unregulated since she had a warrant out already. Emotionally unregulated people often can't hold jobs and really don't have money. OP says she is a master aesthetician with her own spa. She has money, even though she says she doesn't. Somebody else commented, if you're willing to move to Scotland, we take kick butt mums just fine here. Other than that, I can't help. But you were absolutely right in what you did, and I agree, make it hurt. Teach the lesson that she best not come back for more. And somebody asked, based on OP's background, can she relocate to any city and find a job? OP says, I'm actually a private financial advisor, so I work from home mostly. My husband is an engineer, and he can get work just about anywhere. Well, that is good to hear. Okay, and there we go. That is a story for now, I suppose. Now, I feel like the comments here, the comments that I picked out, sort of covered the main points in terms of how crazy Shelley is, and yeah, the fact that she is just obviously slightly messed up in the head and is still, I don't know, living her old relationship and hoping that was still a thing. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't really need to comment anymore. It's obvious that OP is not the jerk here for what she did in defending herself on her property and defending her child. However, I do think that we need to talk a bit more about her neighborhood and how unsupportive and almost anti-OP they seem to be, and why that is. Now, I don't want to jump to any conclusions here, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to question why. Like, it's just strange that they're siding with somebody who is so obviously crazy over you. I think to side with someone, surely they must know about, like, I don't know, unless they've just heard down the grapevine that, oh, someone punched somebody in the throat and that's it. Surely you'd ask for more context there and be like, oh no, that's actually OP's husband's ex from years ago, and she's been sort of going after the new relationship for years. She hasn't moved on at all. She's pretty mental. Like, she's tried to get her son to do lots of things, etc, etc, etc. I do agree though with some of the comments, like, surely just show the footage and then be done with it, and you'd stop all the sort of like weird rumor and people going against you, which I can't quite work out why. Maybe there's more going on here, but like, surely if people know that she's been physically abusive for more than 10 years, that's enough for them to side with you, not her. I mean, I said I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I think you guys know what I mean there, but you know what, I will. OP is a black woman in a small town. Maybe that's all I need to say. Let me know if you agree with me in the comments down below, but yes, it does sound like you should probably move to a town that is a little more inclusive. Okay, now moving on to our second story of this episode. Am I the jerk for not wanting my husband to go away for the weekend for his best friend's bachelor party when I'm 37 weeks pregnant? Now, the original post for this one came back in March of 2019. My husband's best friend got engaged, and my husband is in the wedding party. He's not the best man, but is doing most of the planning for the bachelor party. In his friend group, they usually do a golf weekend. Also, this is likely the last bachelor party in the group, as the rest of the guys are already married. Well, who's to say one of them might be divorced and they might go again? The stats would say that's actually pretty likely. Anyway, let's carry on. I'll stop being silly. However, we have a 2-year-old and I'm currently pregnant with our second child and due on August 25th. This was posted March 25th, by the way. When he started planning the bachelor party, I told him that planning something earlier in the summer would give him a higher chance of going for the full weekend. I originally framed it as not wanting to be stuck watching our toddler by myself for a full weekend in my 3rd trimester while he's out golfing, which was a mistake. I should have framed it as not wanting him to go away for a weekend so close to my due date. I don't know. I think that isn't a mistake at all. The way you phrased it the first time is completely fair, and if he was reasonable, he'd probably say, yeah, that makes sense to me, and I'd pick an earlier date. Anyway, let's carry on. They finally picked a date for the bachelor weekend. It's August the 8th, so I'll be almost 38 weeks pregnant and considered full term. Technically, I'll be 38 weeks the day he plans to get back, so about 2 weeks before my actual due date. The bachelor party will be about 2 hours away without traffic. On previous golf weekends, he's been terrible about keeping his phone charged, and it can be hard to get in touch with him. Also, while he doesn't drink, he does smoke, and he would most likely be smoking the whole weekend. Now, he thinks that as long as he gets someone to watch our toddler while he's gone, it's fine to go for the full weekend, 2 to 3 nights. This makes me incredibly nervous. I'm willing to compromise and agree to an overnight plus a day of golf. I'd also want him to keep his phone on and charged at all times, and ask that he stay sober in case I go into labour. He seemed to think this was an unreasonable compromise when I initially brought it up. Since then, he is unwilling to discuss it until they have finalised the plans for the weekend. I'm of the mindset that there are very few times in our marriage where my needs, wants and desires take priority over his, but that this is one of them. Yes, obviously. So, Reddit, am I the jerk for not wanting him to go to a bachelor party for 2 to 3 nights so close to my due date? Obviously not. How is this even a post? This is not a good sign for your husband, I'm sorry. The fact that you're even having to make this post is really tough. Let's get into an immediate update here because I don't even need to give my thoughts. The answer's so obvious. Update. I tried to talk to my husband about the bachelor party, and I specifically asked how they arrived at that weekend. My husband said the only requirement was that every groomsman be able to attend, and that he threw out 2 dates, one in July and the one 2 weeks before my due date. The July date didn't work for some of the groomsmen, so he picked the August date. Those were the only 2 weekends discussed, and he apparently picked both. His argument is that if I went into labour when he was at work and happened to be on a long call, it could take him over 2 hours to get home. So why is it not okay to plan a trip that would take him the same distance away? What? That's probably the worst argument that I've ever heard. I tried to explain that there's a difference between work, where if he can't get home it's because someone is seriously injured or something is burning down, and a bachelor party. He doesn't see it that way and just wants to be there for his friend. In his head, the due date is August 25th, and there's no chance that the baby could possibly come 2 weeks early. That's right, because babies are never born prematurely. We didn't get a chance to discuss duration of the weekend or the possibility of not smoking before the conversation dissolved. He got annoyed when I brought that he has a poor track record at keeping in touch during these things, although he was pretty angry throughout the entire conversation, to be honest. I tried to remain calm throughout the convo, but I did cry and I was the one to walk away first. Yeah, fair enough. After work today, I'm getting my son and we're going to stay with my parents. All right, let's jump into some comments. Now, this one is very interesting and I don't agree with it. They say OP is not the jerk. However, they also say this. I get that it's a big ask, but his best friend is getting married and he's only going to be 2 hours away. I think that as long as he keeps his phone charged and he stays sober enough to drive, it's not unreasonable that he wants to attend this event that he planned. But I also get why you're nervous. could he tentatively plan to attend and then check in with your doctor to see how likely it is you're going to go into labour closer to the actual date? Somebody replied to this though, doctors can guess, but they're frequently wrong. Lots of women are told they'll have their baby any day now at 36 weeks and go overdue, or told there's no way the baby is coming yet and go into labour within a week. 2 hours away is unlikely to be a huge deal, but if he's drinking and has to sober up first, or if she has a precipitous labour, he could miss the birth entirely. Second babies often come faster too. Personally, I wouldn't be willing to risk that. Now, somebody else sort of replied to everything, all the comments here in general. I also, I can't quite believe what I'm reading here with the comments overall, and I'll give my thoughts on them after this, but they said, not the jerk, the comments here are just so frustrating. Yes, OP's husband will have to make the immense sacrifice of staying sober at a bachelor party. Woe is him, how could he possibly survive? I'm assuming that both parties made the decision to have another kid. In making that decision, OP has sacrificed 9 months of alcohol, getting high at parties, eating what she wants, any number of other things. I don't care if he organised and could have planned it on another day. I don't care if it's the last bachelor party of the group. OP and the baby come first. Not just when it's easy and convenient, but all the time. If my husband went to something like this after I'd asked him not to, and he missed the birth of our child, or showed up drunk or high while I was in labour, it would be the end of my marriage. I honestly cannot believe how many people are saying OP is unreasonable. If you can't stay sober for one weekend for your family, you have a problem. Now, amazingly, guys, and I can't quite believe I'm saying this either, the verdict on the original post on r/AmITheJerk was that there are actually no jerks here, and that yes, what OP is saying is obviously very, very fair, very, very reasonable, but what OP's husband is demanding or wants as well is also reasonable, and therefore he's not the jerk. I could not disagree with this more. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, but from my perspective, I completely agree with the final comment here. OP has sacrificed so much to have the baby, and I know it's annoying, right? You want to go to this bachelor party that you've organised, but it's one bachelor party. It's really not that big of a deal. Also, the fact that you're being allowed to go overnight and have a full golf day as well, I think is a pretty great offer you've got there from your wife. You're not going to get a much better offer than that. I think a lot of women and partners, whichever way around it is, would be like, no, you're not going at all. I think that would be very reasonable. I mean, if my pregnant wife said that to me, I'd be like, you know what? Yeah. Also, I don't think this would even have to happen. You just would stay at home if you're a good person. So stupid. Why is he being such a terrible person about this? I can't quite work it out. Anyway, there's an update to this one that came 5 months later on August the 11th. So that is the weekend of the bachelor party, well, just after it. I cannot wait to see what happened. I really cannot wait to see what conclusion or what sort of agreement these guys came to. Let's get into it. So, the bachelor party was this weekend. My husband and I ultimately decided to wait until the doctor's appointment the week before the party to make a decision. If she said, the baby is coming any day now, he was going to go for the day. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law volunteered to watch our son for the weekend. And it turns out that my parents are moving and wound up moving to an apartment that is 5 minutes from our house. So they'd be around in case I happen to go into labour. I just think that's stupid anyway, sorry guys. Your husband has to be there if there's any chance of you going into labour at all. I'm saying this as a guy that would love to go to a bachelor party, by the way. I haven't organised one, and I can understand. If you organise one, it's a massive deal, and maybe it's the last one you're going to go to. You're going to want to be there, and it's going to be a great weekend. But some things take priority. It's not even a debate in my head. I put myself in this position right now with my best mates in the world going to one of their bachelor parties that I've organised. It's not even up for discussion. I can't even believe this is a post, as I've said. We're going to finish it though, even though I'm actually getting slightly perturbed by this, I'm going to be honest. Anyway, the OB said she didn't think the baby would come this weekend. So we decided that my husband would go to the bachelor party for 2 nights with the stipulation that he remain sober and be ready to leave at a moment's notice. My husband told his friends he'd be up on Friday. We were all set. Why? fair play. I mean, you know what? Fair play to the husband for having a woman like this as his wife. You've done well, my friend, is all I'll say. And then on Wednesday, all heck broke loose. Our son got a rash on his hands and feet, and it turns out that someone at daycare had come down with hand, foot, and mouth disease. He wasn't showing any other symptoms, so we weren't sure if he actually had it or if it was just a random rash. We decided to see how he was on Thursday. If he had a fever, I was going to get a hotel, because if I came down with it, then I could pass it to the baby, and my husband was going to have to stay home. Our son woke up fever-free on Thursday morning, so we were all set. Then, on Thursday night, my mum went to the ER with stomach pains. Turns out, she was also having a baby. Not really. I wonder how many of you I got with that. Turns out, she was going to need surgery. My husband was supposed to leave at 6 a.m. on Friday, but I asked him to wait until we got an update on my mum. That was a bit silly from me, but let me know in the comments down below. Did I prank ya? When I called her on Friday morning, apparently she was feeling better, so the doctor told her that she might be able to go home and schedule the surgery for a later date. I gave my husband the go-ahead to leave for the bachelor party. Except, then the doctor changed his mind and decided the surgery couldn't wait. My mum spent the weekend in the hospital waiting for a surgeon to be available. She finally was able to have the surgery on Sunday morning. In the meantime, I lined up a few friends just in case I happened to go into labour. My dad was also around, but had his hands full dealing with my mum and the move. So this weekend was stressful and it felt like everything that could go wrong did, but at least the baby stayed put. My husband got to go to 2 of the 3 nights of the bachelor party, my mum's surgery went well, and our son never actually got sick. And my husband was a lot more responsive to text than he normally is because of the whole situation with my mum. No, that shouldn't have been the reason. It should have been because of you potentially having a kid. Anyway, I'm just glad that my husband is home and that this weekend is finally over. What have I just read? Please, can some of the comments agree with me here? What is going on? Let's just get straight into them. Somebody said, I nearly got a panic attack reading this. Okay, good. It was extremely irresponsible of your husband to leave once potential hand, foot, and mouth disease was knocking about, and your mother's surgery was in the picture. He shouldn't have even had to ask you. I mean, that is the thing. He really shouldn't have done. That puts pressure on you to not come across as a female dog in this. This could easily have gone a lot worse. You just lucked out. I was a preemie from my mother stressing out. I've had really bad hand, foot, and mouth disease as an adult. And when I gave birth myself, it went from low risk to life-threatening pretty fast. And 2 hours would definitely have made a big difference. He's a father, and that means he's got to be there for you, his son, and new baby-to-be. A multi-day bachelor party cannot be a priority. It doesn't matter if you're family and friends. It's his child. I feel like you only got not the jerk because Reddit skews young enough and male enough that they don't quite internalize all the emotional labor that men pass to women and how optional men find putting in the time to be a father. Would they think it's reasonable if, at 1 week postpartum, you decided to leave the baby behind and party up with your friends? After all, there's breast pumps and formula, so other people can theoretically do the newborn parenting. He owes you all the 4 a.m. feedings at this point to make this up. Somebody else commented, and you're going to like this one. Can you imagine if she'd gone into birth? OP, it's just me today. Dog. Really? You have someone you can call? Your mum? Well, she's in emergency surgery. Okay, your dad? He's taking care of her. Any friends? Well, they're caring for my son who has hand, foot, and mouth disease. Okay, what is going on? Where's your husband again? Now see, he really wanted 2 nights with his boys. Goodness me. I'm glad it worked out, but I hope this man grows up. Somebody else said, this could be turned into a movie. So much drama with a good ending. Congrats, I'm glad everything turned out okay. Mum okay, son okay, you and baby okay. Husband had 2 nice days. Now, poop is going to hit the fan when the baby comes. You're going to be busier than a one-armed paper hanger. Now, OP did actually leave one final update here. Wow, I really wasn't expecting this to blow up. My husband and I were looking at the weekend with a sense of humour, as in, what else could go wrong? He's a great husband and father and very helpful around the house. I understand that he wanted a last hurrah with the boys before the baby comes, And I thought we did pretty well coming up with a compromise that was as stress-free as possible for everyone involved. Unfortunately, the best laid plans and all that rubbish. We're both just glad that he was able to have a great time with his friends. No one got hand, foot and mouth disease. My mum was okay, and he didn't miss the baby being born. Okay, I mean, maybe, but like, sorry. As I've already said throughout all of this story, you lot get in the comments down below. Tell me if I'm actually like just siding with the mum too much here. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. I also don't think that any of this stuff really had to happen before the decision should have been made. Like the hand, foot and mouth disease and your OP's mum going into surgery or whatever. Like, surely you should already have just been like, oh, I'm going to be at home. And even after that, like, surely at that point, when you've got the disease and both of OP's parents are obviously tied up in the surgery, he should have been like, okay, no, you know what? I do want to go to this, but I'll definitely stay at home now. What is going on? Also, why not just make yourself unavailable for that weekend in the first place? 2 weeks before your wife is due is a stupid time to organize a bachelor party. Do it on another day. Like, your wife explicitly said to you, the earlier you do it, the better, because I'm pregnant. It's so dumb. I just don't really get why the people of Reddit, and this is where I do often, and sometimes, not often, often it's harsh, but sometimes I'm a little bit perplexed by Redditors when they just like come to some opinion that I just do not agree with. I guess that's the beauty of the internet. But last hurrah before the baby comes. You already have a baby. Like, I feel like you're past that point now. Unless he gets a last hurrah before every new baby comes. It's stupid. Why do you need a last hurrah as well? Like, you've chosen to have a baby. Shouldn't that just be like the most unbelievable thing ever? And also, the fact that you already have a kid, like, you're already looking after a kid. Having another one doesn't change the fact that you're already looking after one. I don't get the last hurrah bit. I don't understand. I really, really don't. I just think this guy is an absolute clown. Like, let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me on this. I just think it's like the most easy sort of conclusion to this one ever. He's just a clown. And look, clearly OP is a very, very selfless, forgiving person, but I feel like you're bordering on welcome mat material. That is how much your husband feels like he can just do stuff and get away with it because you're so nice to him. Maybe I'm going too far here. Let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, that is what I think about that one. Am I the jerk for divorcing my husband and leaving him with the kid after finding out I'm not biologically the mum? The original post for this one came on August the 5th, 2024. I can't believe my life has come to this. All I ever do is go out of my way to help others. But on the few occasions I need help, nobody ever comes through for me. I am a 36-year-old woman, and I've been with my husband, who is 35, for almost 10 years. We've been married for 7. We had what I thought was my child by surrogate over 2 years ago, because after 4 years of trying to conceive with no success, despite medical intervention, it turns out I am unable to carry a child to term. I'd always wanted to be a mum. Devastated is an understatement regarding how I felt when I found out I have a medical condition that would make it nearly impossible to carry a baby to term. It was even more upsetting when I had to get a major surgery to remove uterine growths with the hope to increase fertility, and complications during surgery warranted a partial hysterectomy involving removal of my uterus. I still had my ovaries, so we started looking into the cost of a surrogate. It's really expensive. My close friend since college, who'd already had 2 kids of her own, offered to serve as the surrogate for us to cut down on costs. After 2 disappointing IVF sessions that didn't result in pregnancy, she became pregnant on the 3rd try and carried a boy to term for us. I was so happy and busy after the birth, between being a mum and returning to work after a 4-week paternal leave, so I didn't notice any warning signs. I should have noticed the red flags and warning signs early on, but I didn't. I was just so exhausted from working so much at my stressful job, and on top of that 2 part-time jobs to cover most of the bills, and the anticipated medical and legal costs associated with this friend becoming our surrogate. I was the primary breadwinner. Now, my friend and my husband started talking more. I'd actually sometimes come home from my weekend job to find her already hanging out at our house when my husband was there. I chalked it up as innocuous. It's good for her to know my husband better, since she was in the process of hopefully carrying our child for us. I was grateful to have someone helping us have a child. I also then thought it weird that our son has brown eyes when both of us have blue. Then I found out that while this is uncommon, it is possible sometimes due to many genes controlling eye color. Recently, it all came to a head when I took our son to a doctor's appointment and they did metabolic panel and blood tests, which showed that he had a blood type that is not biologically possible to have with me as his mother. He's B+, I'm A+, my husband is O+. Immediately, I started worrying it was the fertility clinic's fault and that they'd messed up and implanted a wrong embryo. I started lining up lawyer consultations to possibly sue the clinic, and I looked into having a DNA parentage test done. The test results showed that I'm not the mother, but my husband still is the father. I was heartbroken and angrier than ever. I talked to lawyers about medical malpractice in the fertility clinic we'd used. Then my husband confessed that he'd slept with my friend, our surrogate, on a few different occasions during our struggle to have her get pregnant with our embryos. This means what I thought was our son conceived by IVF and carried with a surrogate isn't my son at all, and he was in fact conceived the old-fashioned way, which I can't even do. Livid and absolutely broken at the same time doesn't even begin to describe how I feel. I've been breaking down into crying spells over and over again about this. He claims he didn't ever think pregnancy could result because he pulled out, and he'd always assumed that he was the reason for our earlier struggles to conceive, both before my hysterectomy and during the IVF insemination process with this friend. I felt an immediate triple betrayal from what was supposed to be my husband, my friend, and now knowing my child isn't even really mine. I had such white-hot rage and delirium, I immediately left home and stayed at a hotel for almost a week before asking my parents to let me stay at home for a while. I admit I left our son with him. I'm now filing divorce because he cheated and betrayed me in the worst possible way. I've also cut off my friendship with my friend, the surrogate, and I feel afraid to trust anyone else now. I've seen a divorce lawyer to see about giving up my legal rights to this kid so I don't have to face such betrayal or owe child support. My husband and friend, surrogate, admit they were wrong and keep apologizing, but also called me immature and heartless to just give up on my son like that. My parents also say I can't just give up on a kid that I went through so many legal and medical hoops to have. When I told them I refused to stay in a cheating marriage and I'd rather adopt someday with a better, more trustworthy partner, they also told me that I was wrong and that maintaining my parental rights isn't much different than if I adopted outright. They said it isn't blood that makes a family. They're all about me divorcing my cheater husband, but they keep telling me I'm making a mistake giving up my parental rights. Some of my other friends agree with what I'm doing. A few admitted they weren't big enough to swallow pride and care for an affair baby, or to see daily reminders of my friend/surrogate's betrayal every time I look at her son. I just want a clean break and a fresh start. I'm also looking at relocating several states away. So, am I the jerk for giving up my parental rights in the divorce because a kid I paid a lot of money to have born by surrogacy isn't biologically mine at all, but is actually the surrogate's? Okay, wow, what a story. First of all, let's jump into some comments before I give my thoughts and we get into the update for this one. Somebody said, "No, you are of course not the jerk. You've suffered a terrible betrayal. Only you can say what's best for you." Personally, I wouldn't be able to look at the child without being hit with the betrayal again and again. Your parents and friends don't have to actually deal with that situation, so they don't get a vote. Your soon-to-be ex is a real piece of work. You're immature? I'd want to throw up if I was in the same room with him. Please get some therapy to work through this. Don't let these two jerks hold you back from living your best life. Completely agree with all of that, by the way. The immature comment is just ridiculous. Like, when you know you're in the complete wrong and then you have a go at the person that you've done this to by calling them immature, it's insane. Anyway, OP replied to this saying, he feels like biological maternity shouldn't matter that much when it means that I am finally fulfilling my dream of becoming a mother. He says that if I adopt someday, I'm still going to have to raise a child that isn't biologically mine. How does that make any sense? There's a difference. On the one hand, when you adopt a child, you know it's not yours. But when you have a child through a surrogacy, like, you don't also think it's not yours. It's your genes. It's completely different. I know it's not in your belly, but come on, man. Anyway, let's carry on. OP says, he has reminded me about what a depressive wreck I was during the infertility, the aftermath of my partial hysterectomy, and how I put him through the ringer because I was obsessed with wanting to have a child. He claims that I pushed him away with my baby obsession and he couldn't deal with me anymore, and that's why he started straying the way he did. He also says that I can't just turn my back on a child when I legally signed all the paperwork, which is similar to adoption paperwork, since the state doesn't readily recognize a child born to a surrogate to be the couple's child, since they base it on the person who gave birth to the child as being the legal mother until paperwork is signed that transfers the rights over. He also claimed that I'm going to have a difficult battle ahead of me trying to reverse that. What a nice person your soon-to-be ex is. Jesus. Now, somebody said that OP should ask her husband and the surrogate to actually reimburse her for the cost of IVF. OP replied to this saying, I tried and failed. The doctor and clinic I complained to said the IVF costs were associated with the formation and storage of embryos and the procedures associated with the insemination, not the outcome. OP then also responded to a question about her ovaries or eggs being intact or not. She said, obviously I have eggs if my ovaries are intact, and they extracted eggs to form the embryos prior to inseminating. There's still eggs remaining there. Well, I suppose that is good news. I don't know if OP will be able to go through this process again with another surrogate after this rubbish. I mean, think of the trauma, but who knows, at least the option is there. OP then explained fully in the comments the process of the fertility clinic being involved. The fertility clinic was just involved in the egg extraction, embryo formation, and storage of eggs and embryos. Another medical practice utilized the in vitro fertilization methods with the person I thought would be our surrogate. He didn't pick the surrogate for us, it was a personal friend who agreed to do this out of the supposed kindness of her heart, since she already had 2 prior children and knew that she could carry to term easily and didn't mind being pregnant. Had we gone through a professional surrogacy practice, there would have been other steps involved, and they would have found a few options for surrogates for us, but the costs were way too high, which is why we skipped some steps and a lot of money by going through a friend that we thought we could trust. Now, I feel like I can trust no one. I don't even feel like I could try surrogacy again in the future because my trust in that is broken. Well, there we go. I suppose that is the answer to my question, which is a real shame. Somebody else commented, "You're obviously not the jerk. One of the things that gets me though is that you were working extra jobs to pay for the surrogacy, which I'm assuming included her medical bills and financially supporting her. I'd speak to a solicitor about suing her for your money back. She knew that if she was having sex, there was always a chance that the child was biologically hers." OP said most of the cost was for the egg retrieval, embryo formation and storage, and especially the IVF procedures, which weren't eligible for insurance cover through her health insurance. Yeah, I see. I mean, tough spot, but surely there is something you could do there. Something legal you could do there. Like, you can sue for something. Surely, like damages of any sort. There must be rights or, like things that you can't do as a surrogate mother. I mean, there has to be, otherwise it would just be ridiculous, right? And I know this wasn't a professional surrogacy, but surely you can't have sex during surrogacy or like supposed surrogacy with one of the people you're meant to be like doing the work or doing the job for. I don't know. I don't know any of the rules clearly, but if you do, I suppose they also differ wherever you are in the world, but let me know in the comments down below what the laws are where you are. OP actually then answered finally a couple of questions about the surrogate. Firstly, her family, saying she doesn't have a husband. She had 2 kids with a long-term boyfriend, but they split 5 years or so ago. She's not married. She was with her ex for a long time and had 2 kids with him, but they didn't marry and then they broke up. Somebody asked, finally, did the surrogate sign legal papers regarding the parental rights? The only paperwork that was legally drafted was for her transferring over the parental rights to us, much like an adoption in the event that there is already a mutual off-the-books agreement to adopt from someone already personally known. We were trying to do it as cheaply as possible because we don't make much money, and the cost that couldn't be avoided was sky high, enough to the point I took out loans from the bank and then picked up those 2 part-time jobs on the side to pay towards these loans. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there we go. That is it for the original post and some comments. Now, as I said in the intro, there is an update to this one, which comes 5 months after the conclusion of that. However, I do just want to say one thing, and I feel like most things have been cleared up by the comments, and I do agree with the majority of what was said there. The one thing that I just don't think has been talked about enough is the level of betrayal. Like, it's actually insane from so many people. Well, I say so many people, it's only actually your husband and the surrogate in quotes. But like, it's actually crazy. I mean, the fact they've gaslit you as well is just the cherry on top. But that's the one thing the comments aren't really saying. It's just, yeah, you've suffered a lot of betrayal, but like, think about the actual trauma. This would have gone on for your entire life, right, if you hadn't found out. I don't think that you would have ever been told by your husband or by the surrogate what actually happened. So there is a decent chance that you could have gone your entire life with having a son that you obviously thought was your son that actually wasn't ever related to you. And I know we see these things sometimes on, like, we have Jeremy Kyle, well, not anymore, it was cancelled in the UK, but like Jerry Springer in the US. It just is insane, and I don't actually think that sometimes I realize how common stuff like this is, or actually how easily it can come about, because all that has happened here is just two people have well, one person has cheated, but all you need is for these two people to hold this truth for their lives, which, I don't know, they probably could easily do so. I mean, they did it for a while anyway. And then you find yourself living an entire life where you think you're a mum, but you're actually not. You know, when you see on these shows like, oh, this woman finds out after 25 years that you are not the mother or you are not the father. I'm always a bit like, okay, that's just ridiculous. But this is not ridiculous. I can see how this would happen, 100%. Very tough. But as I said, let's get into the update that came 5 months later, which was actually left in the comments of the original post. It wasn't a separate update. So this was January the 4th, 2025. And OP said, I'm low on time right now. I'll be posting a separate update post later. Now, at the time of recording, that hasn't happened, which probably means that, yeah, very, very stressed. No time at all. But they still say, I'm not staying and I'm not caring for him anymore. I wasn't even offered a choice in the matter at all, which is why I've kept telling myself I shouldn't want to compare myself to men in a similar type of parentage situation, and I've kept myself aloof towards the boy I thought was mine. I've no legal rights anymore, no matter what, because she fought to get her son back. I'm actually a lot more upset about losing this child than I presented in my post, and I'm realizing more and more with each passing day, the choice wasn't mine and I lost. Oh my gosh, I see. I posted that I wouldn't want to be the sucker raising someone else's kid as more of a cope than anything. She got to have her kid. He left me and I'm stuck with nothing. What the heck? And that is all for the post. I didn't really fully grasp that when I started reading that, but wow. So the surrogate actually fought back. Well, not the surrogate, I suppose. The actual biological mum fought back and said, no, this is my kid. I am the mum and I'm going to be the mum. Jesus. Okay. OP did add a little bit more context in the comments, explaining about being the legal guardian in the question after the maternal test confirmed her not to be the biological mother. She said, and yes, that is exactly what I've been going through all these months. I have little to no rights. I'm stuck coping with major loss. I suppose the question was asking, like, what rights do you have as a legal guardian if you're actually not involved with the kid at all, like biologically, right? My best chance at still being this boy's guardian is to stay with that awful scrub of a guy, hope he lets me stay, and agreeing to let that slaw of a friend, I've never heard slaw before, but that is a wonderful word. I presume it's a combination of two derogatory words, but I might use that myself, have 50-50, and be the chump who still pays most of the bills for that unmotivated scrub SOB in the meantime, while he continues to cheat. It also came out that she wasn't his only affair either. He's been cheating all along for most of the time that we'd been trying, without success of getting pregnant. Oh my gosh. So for anyone who acts like I'm selfish or I make their blood boil, they can go F themselves. They don't know me like that, and I don't have any real choice in the matter. Holy heck. Is all I can say. Just insane. Just absolutely insane. Like, wow, what a story. I'm absolutely shocked at that outcome. I didn't actually talk at all in my comments after the first post about the main point of the update, as in, how would you feel and how is OP dealing with the fact that, yeah, it's not her kid anymore, but like her parents were saying, do you have to be blood related for it to actually be your child? Like, you know, if you adopt a kid, then they're still your child, right? Does the biology of it really matter that much at all? OP said at first that it did matter. Suppose a few months later she realized that it doesn't matter, or at least doesn't matter as much. But, you know, after 2 years of raising a kid, to then just have them taken away like that, even though they're not yours, is clearly more impactful, I suppose, than OP expected. But Jesus, I mean, somehow the surrogate, in quotes once again, and your ex, or soon to be ex, I suppose, I guess he left you said in the update, are even worse than I first thought from reading the original post. Wow, that was a very short update, but one of the most impactful and just like destroying that I've read. I'm actually slightly lost for words. My husband got fired for harassing a co-worker and won't talk to me about it. I am a 36-year-old woman, and my husband, Charlie, who is a 41-year-old man, and I have been together for 10 years, married for 6. We've had our ups and downs, but we're currently in an up. He's never done anything like this in the past, so it came out of left field for me, and I'm very much shocked and at a loss here. Charlie is a computer programmer and was a senior engineer at his former company, where he'd worked for 4 years. He'd never had any trouble with co-workers, and were both friendly with a few of them, mostly other men and their wives. On Friday of last week, he came home at around 11 AM and told me he'd been fired. He was really upset and agitated, and I didn't want to push him about it. But he told me that they'd said he was harassing a co-worker and was therefore fired. So the information I've been able to get out of him is this. The co-worker is Beth, a junior engineer who he's never mentioned to me before. He said she's, quote, terrible at her job. Beth slept with a senior engineer we're both friendly with, Darren. Darren wasn't involved in the harassment, wasn't fired, etc. The company's lawyers were there, and among the things they told him was that Beth could have pressed charges, but chose not to. Something happened with her car, but he won't say what. His exact words were, there was something with her car. And finally, he was escorted off of the premises and is not allowed back in the building to get his belongings, and instead has to arrange with security to pick them up after business hours. As far as anything else goes, he won't give me any details. He isn't interested in seeing a lawyer because he says that everything is legal. He's basically admitted to, quote, sending Beth some emails, but he won't say what they said or anything like that. I don't know if Beth sleeping with Darren had to do with it, but the fact that he gave me that detail makes me think it does. I'm not sure how that relates. Darren is a very nice single man who's in his late 20s and approximately the same age as Beth. My mind is running wild here. Charlie has been depressed and withdrawn all weekend. He won't talk to me about it, and he won't talk much in general. I work remotely, so I was home all day with him, and he played video games all day and then went to bed at 6 PM. The fact that he won't tell me anything and isn't interested in seeing a lawyer makes me think that it's bad, and it makes me worry that everything is true and not just a misunderstanding or a small thing blown out of proportion. He has never been flirtatious with other women or cruel to them, and he's also never said anything bad about other women engineers that he's worked with. I don't know what to do here. My instinct is to be supportive of my husband, but I don't know what kind of behaviour I'd be supporting. I don't want to run to his co-workers we know and ask them, since they're more our friends than my friends, and while we spend time together at get-togethers or bars, I'm not close with them. In an immediate sense, I don't know what to do about helping someone who is so depressed and won't talk to me. Okay, there we go. That is it for the original post. I completely get what OP is saying. You want to back up your husband here, of course you do, but you don't know what he's done. Can you support someone when you don't know what they've done? I'm not entirely sure, even if they are your husband. If he's not giving you the details, then that's not really your fault. Anyway, let's jump into some top comments before getting into the update for this one. Somebody said, I would tell him you have to assume the worst if he won't be honest with you. I've got to say, he must have done some bad stuff to be escorted off the premises with no warning like that. Either he was hating on her and went over the top, or he tried to F her and went over the top, or he tried to F her and then hated on her. Okay, I suppose, maybe, but I'm not sure about sort of guessing what he's done either. It's one thing him not telling you, it's another thing trying to work out what he might have done. This comment continues saying, edit, I've just reread the whole thing. I'm guessing that he tried to F her, then sent crazy emails and vandalized her car. He could easily still be charged criminally and or sued. Yeah, as I said, I'm not sure about jumping to conclusions, but I get why the people of Reddit are trying to work out, or guess at what might have happened. Somebody else actually replied to this comment saying, I've worked at larger companies, and when they fire people, sometimes they are walked right out of the building. The reasoning is they don't want the fired person to make a scene and rock the boat. It's heartless in my opinion, but it does happen. Something tells me that OP's husband did something terrible because lawyers were there and apparently the girl could have pressed charges. That is very unusual. My guess is OP's husband got jealous that Darren was sleeping with Beth and not him, as he had a crush on Beth for a while, and he flipped out and went all nice guy on her. He mentioned there are emails, so there is evidence in writing as well. This does not bode well for OP. Again, I can't really argue with this comment, and this does seem pretty reasonable. I'm just not sure that I want to go there and say what might have happened. I mean, maybe I'm sort of doing a little bit of a cop-out there because I know there is an update to come, but just my opinion. Anyway, one final comment said this. Seeing as it got so far that he's been fired and he doesn't want to fight it, it sounds like the allegations are probably true. The fact that he brings up Darren makes it seem like he's harassed her as a result of sexual jealousy. Does he usually shut down conversation on things? Does he usually keep things from you? I'd be very cautious about what he's hiding and what it means for you and your relationship. Even if it's not sexual and it's just plain old harassment, do you want to be with a grown man who harasses young women to the point he gets fired? It's a good point. I mean, he's 41, Beth is, in her late 20s. Yeah, you don't want to be with somebody that does this sort of thing, obviously. I mean, no matter what the age of everyone involved is. But anyway, let's, with that all being said, get straight into the update of this one, which was actually posted the next day. By the way, I'm not disagreeing with any of these comments, and what they're saying is probably accurate. Let's be honest. I just wouldn't jump to that conclusion straight away because, we're just guessing. We don't really know. But let's see what actually did happen in the update. OP says, my thread was locked before I was able to respond to any of the comments, but I was able to read them this morning. I got up at 5:30 to go to the gym before work, and my husband was still awake playing video games. I presented him with the very good idea that somebody suggested of sending me an email with the details, but that it wasn't acceptable to shut me out of this situation since it affects me too. His response was basically, the paperwork is in my car. Go get it if you want to read it. I asked him to go and get it so we could look at it together, and he said, you're going to believe what you want anyway. All of this is unusual for our marriage because I'm a pretty patient person, I think. We went out to the car together and he got in, handed me the papers, and left. Well, that is not a good sign. For about 2 hours, I was panicked because I didn't know where he went, if he was okay, if he was thinking of hurting himself. But his mum texted me at 9 saying he was over there, asking me what happened, if everything is okay, etc. His parents live about 15 minutes away, and I guess he told her he's going to be staying there. So, the paperwork. According to the paperwork, he sent Beth multiple harassing emails from anonymous email accounts. The emails are printed out and attached. He apparently did this while at work, and they've been monitoring his user account for 3 months. The emails aren't sexual or romantic in nature, and they're all anonymous, and about how she sucks at her job, wouldn't be there if she wasn't a woman, how she should quit before she gets fired, and how everyone in the office hates her. He made fake user accounts for his company's product that she works on and submitted bad reviews of her work. He also did this while logged in at work. He sent an anonymous email to her boss saying that she was sleeping with a senior engineer on another project. He put a gun catalogue on the windshield of her car. I don't know what this gesture means, but I obviously understand that it was meant to be threatening. Unfortunately, inside was a subscription card that the company auto-filled with his name and address. She also says she's been harassed for the same length of time, about 3 months, on Twitter. He only logged into one Twitter account that harassed her at work, so they can only say that one was him, all telling her to quit her job. So, I don't know what to do now. This is all terrifying to me, and I feel so bad for this woman. I have no idea what this is all about. He works with other female engineers, he's worked with male engineers who don't pull their weight, and he's never done anything like this. I would have bet $1 million that he'd never do anything like this. He's at his parents right now, and I don't know what my next move here could possibly be. This is so scary and out of left field to me. Goodness me. There we go. That is it for the update. Let's jump into some final comments. OP's actually added a little bit more information first of all before I give my final thoughts. So OP said this in the comments down below. I forgot to mention this paperwork is copied from the original and was signed by both him and his company. I don't know if that's a full admission, but it seems damning either way. Somebody said in response to this, time to sit your husband down and give an ultimatum. He needs to give you his side of the story or you two are done. This is clearly a Jekyll and Hyde thing going on. Somebody else said, your husband needs serious therapy. What you describe is absolutely abhorrent behaviour. If he is unwilling to get help about this or do anything to convince you that he understands how wrong what he did is, you should seriously consider getting as far away from this man as you can. What he did is evil. Okay, there we go. That is it for the first story of this episode. And that's kind of the reason why I didn't really want to jump to conclusions, because yes, what we've seen there is disgusting. I'm not taking away from that fact, but there was no like sexual stuff in there, which a lot of people were saying in the comments in the original post. I mean, doesn't really change the fact that you've got to leave your husband, right? Like, what is he doing? Also, why is he doing this? This is the main thing that's just so weird. Like, what's happened here in his mind for him to do this? To be honest, it doesn't really matter, but you can't be with someone like this. If he's doing this to a younger woman, I mean, you're a younger woman than him, so who knows? He could easily at some point in your lives together act like that with you. It's too scary, right? You got to get out of there. The cyber harassment is one thing, but leaving your name and address in a gun catalogue that you put on someone's car, I mean, leaving the name and address is stupid, but a gun catalogue on someone's car? Now, I'm not entirely sure whether that's like him saying to her, I'm threatening you with, a gun, or perhaps he wanted that to be found by, another member of staff on her car. Depends what sort of state this is in. Like, if that happened in the UK, it feels like he might have been trying to set her up a little bit. But all the comments, and I presume all of you guys are saying that no, actually, like, that's just threatening that, he wants to shoot her or something, which is just crazy. Like, again, I know I've said this so many times on the channel, but it's so weird to me how some people can seem so normal. Like, you've been together with this guy for 10 years, married for 6, OP. Yet behind closed doors, or not even behind closed doors, at their place of work, they have so much hatred for this one woman for apparently no reason that they would threaten their life. Like, it's insane. And yeah, ultimately, you got to get out of there. Now for our second story of this episode. My ex turned up last night drunk. Tomorrow is his wedding day. Should I tell his soon-to-be wife? I was with my ex for 2 years. It wasn't the best relationship, and we broke up because I moved for uni and just didn't want to be with him anymore. It's been almost 5 years since we broke up, and I'm engaged to be married with my fiance, who is absolutely my soulmate. Yesterday evening at around 10 o'clock, he rang our doorbell drunk. His bachelor party was in the city I live in, and he came to see me. When my fiance opened the door, my ex just started sobbing, saying that he couldn't believe he, my fiance, was real or something like that. We took him into the apartment because he didn't look dangerous. He just vocally vomited before he actually vomited in our bath. What I could gather is that he was still very hurt because of our breakup, that he thinks that we could have made it work, and he regrets treating me badly. He then threw up again and called an Uber to his hotel. It was very surreal. He was fine. We fed him waffles to sober him up and told him to write to us when he was in his hotel to make sure he didn't die or something. I was left with a weird feeling, almost dirty. I'm thinking of contacting his soon-to-be wife. Or should I call him to encourage him to tell that to his fiancée? Or should I not do anything and let this just be an anecdote for my future? Wow. Very, very interesting. I don't know about this one. I really don't. I personally think you have to tell her. You have to tell her. Because if you don't, then you know that he's going into this relationship, into this wedding, into this marriage, not fully in it, right? Like, he's still got regrets. Do you want to be married to somebody that has regrets over their past and that is still, like, as soon as they have a bit of alcohol, thinking about their ex? No. So I think you owe it to her to tell her. I know it's not your place, but also like put yourself in her shoes. Anyway, let's see what the people of Reddit had to say about this. Somebody said, wow, interesting. They said exactly the same thing I've just said. Put yourself in his wife's shoes. Would you want to sign your life away to this person? OP replied, I guess I'd want to know, but I would also prefer my partner to tell me that. Yeah, I agree. It isn't your place to tell her, and I agree exactly with your logic there. Tell him to tell her. But I would also say, like, look, if you don't tell her, then I'm going to, because she has to know. Somebody else said, well, would he tell her though? Like, why would he tell her? By telling her yourself, you risk not being believed or coming across as petty, but at least you know somebody tried to warn her. Now, OP left a little edit and a couple of updates below this. First of all, she said, thanks for all the feedback. It seems like Reddit is as split on this as I am. Just because this kept coming up, my main goal with telling her is not for them to break up. I don't want that. That's not why I would want to tell her. The reason for me telling her is solely that I would want to know if I was her. Nothing else. It's also not me bragging about him not being over me. That's not something I care about. And I wonder how some of you twisted it into that. Also, a tiny update. I decided that contacting the bride was the wrong move because we are not friends. However, I sent his sister, an old friend of mine, a message basically saying to talk to her brother because he appeared at my door drunk and distressed and to make sure he was okay. She thanked me for the message and apologized profusely because my ex had been apparently acting a fool for a few weeks now leading up to his wedding. She asked me if I was okay and if her brother had gone back to the hotel room because they couldn't find him. I told her he'd Ubered home and had written to us that he had arrived in his room at around 11:30 p.m. She thanked me again and I haven't heard from her since. Oh, and another update. His sister called me again to ask me if he'd come by or said anything about his whereabouts. Apparently he didn't show for the wedding. Oh my goodness. Apparently he didn't show for the wedding and nobody knows where he is. So me telling the fiance is now obsolete. Goodness me. Okay, so that update came, I presume, the next day on the wedding day. I forget that this is all happening very, very quickly and the night before the wedding. Jesus. All right, somebody said in the comments down below, you and your fiance handled every bit of this as graciously as anyone could expect. Contacting his sister was the best move you could have made. Somebody said, oh dang, he ran out on the wedding. That girl dodged a major bullet. And finally someone said, holy heck, the edits. I hope he's okay. Please update us if they find him. I mean, yeah, that is true. Like, it's not just that he ran out on the wedding. Nobody's actually seen him, I suppose, since he left your house, OP. So, yeah, I hope he's all right. To be honest, it does sound... I know this is obviously like a crazy event and very, very distressing for the wife-to-be, but I think in the long term, it's probably a good thing these guys didn't get married. Anyway, 10 days later, we got this final update. Long story short, he bailed. He decided he did not want to commit to his fiancée, bailed, and days later called to break off the engagement. A few more details. After his sister and I talked, my ex's fiancée reached out and was kind of mad. The best man had told her he went to see me. At first, she was convinced we had sex, so that took a bit of talking. I felt sorry. She was very distraught. She apologized, I apologized, and I told her I wished her the best. Saturday, I received a call from the sister. Apparently, the ex reappeared. He went all the way to France. I'm not actually sure where this is happening. I think it might be in England because of the word uni earlier, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, France, overseas, and this definitely doesn't take place in France, does it? His sister called me to apologize because my ex had stolen one of my lipsticks. I honestly hadn't noticed, but my ex admitted it to her. She PayPal'd me the money to buy myself a new one. I said I wasn't mad and I asked her how she was and how his ex-fiancé was. On their end, everything is a mess. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Everyone is mad at him. I don't know many more details and I kind of wasn't willing to ask, but yeah, that's it. Okay, and there we go. One final comment. He stole a lipstick? A lipstick? What? Who does that? It's so bizarre, it's funny. Stealing a lipstick of all things and then his sister PayPaling you for it? Thank you for the laugh. OP replied saying, "Our guess is that he just grabbed the first thing he knew was mine that was small enough to fit in his pocket." And there we go. Okay, not quite sure how to react to that one. Slightly strange story all in. This guy, I think, just was battered and clearly had realized over the previous weeks that he did not want to do this. And he was probably too much of a coward to admit it to his fiance and had to do this instead and just, yeah, get out of there. Which is a terrible, terrible thing to do. I mean, if you're going to do something like this that close to a wedding, at least have the decency to actually explain to people that you're not feeling it. If you're not feeling it, yeah, it's pretty poor to do it that late, and I assume that everyone involved is going to lose quite a lot of money on the wedding, but it's at least better than just running away and then just, you know, on the day, the bride-to-be just being like, well, where's my fiance? Where's my husband? And just, you know, obviously being devastated. But yeah, there you go. As for stealing the lipstick, I don't know. This guy he's just gone crazy. He's just panicked, hasn't he? That's the thing. He's just panicked, and yeah, he needs some help, but he's also a complete jerk. Just from looking through the comments and OP's account, I think that OP lives in Germany, or at least is German. So safe to assume that this wedding was taking place in Germany, and that, yeah, her ex just fled across the border into France. It's not really that funny, but it kind of is. Like, I can just imagine this guy just being like so stressed and panicked and being like, you know what, I can't even just not go to my wedding. I've got to leave the country. What an idiot. What an absolute idiot. And just, why is he stolen lipstick? Again, like, as I said earlier, I feel like this is a good man to dodge from I hope now his ex. But doing it in this way, absolutely shocking. My wife returned from a work retreat with a hickey. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I'm at a loss. How do I move forward? This was originally posted on February the 21st, 2025. I, a 27-year-old man, am in a fight with my wife, who is 28. We've had fights before, but not this bad. I'm at a loss on how to proceed. For context, we're college sweethearts, married for almost 6 years. We have a daughter who is 4. Our relationship was never perfect or without challenges. We've faced some family opposition with cultural differences, but we've made it work. She's my first love and my best friend. My wife works in corporate. Her job has annual work retreats that last for about a week. This year was in Vegas. I usually arrange my work schedule and tag along with her, and we make our own trip out of it. We couldn't this year. Our daughter gets major anxiety traveling long distances. We're working on it, but she wasn't budging, and we decided to choose our battles. So, I stood behind and I held down the fort at home. The change of plans was a bummer because the trip was part of us reconnecting as both a couple and as a family. My wife's work hours have taken a toll, and her work-life balance leaves much to be desired. We entertained the idea of her skipping the retreat. Attendance is optional, but it's generally frowned upon if you don't, and my wife's making connections in her field. She grew increasingly weird. We have a system if either of us is away for extended periods. We keep in contact. For the first day or so, she was herself, but she grew distant. I'd even text her about important stuff and be left on read while she claimed she never saw my text. Whenever we talked, she was rushing me or our daughter off the phone. These were all times she wasn't involved in retreat activities. We were supposed to have a mini birthday celebration for our daughter over FaceTime. Our daughter was excited. It was something my wife promised her because the retreat overlapped her actual birthday. But she backed out because she had people up to her room after a seminar. It was like she wanted my permission to break her promise to our daughter. I told her I wasn't offering that, nor making her keep her word. She said I wasn't being fair, and this was a networking opportunity. They were business oriented and wouldn't understand her stepping away for family time. I said her decision is her decision, but she'd have to explain it to our daughter. She promised her that she'd rain check the following day. Our daughter didn't understand and cried. My wife ended up hanging up and leaving me to comfort our daughter alone. The whole incident rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like it. She didn't keep her word for the rain check either. She was documenting the retreat on social media. One co-worker, a 23-year-old man, was almost in every picture or video attached to her hip. In one pic, he had his arm too comfortably around her, IMO. He's a recent hire in my wife's department. She was asked to oversee him. I don't like the guy. He doesn't know boundaries. Once, in response to a work assignment, he texts my wife that she's exactly the kind of woman he needs to keep him in check. My wife brushed it off. She feels bad for him because he's not fitting in. She took him under her wing during his first retreat with the team. If I'd questioned, she'd say she was tired or networking. There was always something. But I've seen her at these retreats. This wasn't like her. She was just off. The day before her return home, she complained about a bruise on her neck. She stressed it was a bug bite. I didn't actually see the bruise until she came home. I instantly thought it was a full-on hickey. She kind of brushed it off after making a big deal of it over the phone. I didn't push because our daughter was present. But when I was able to confront her, she clung to her bug bite claim. When I kept pushing, she asked what I was trying to imply. I outright said I believed she had a hickey, and I didn't believe she was being honest with me. We had it out then. She was offended and angry at the accusation. Infidelity has always been a sore topic. Her family has a history of it. So we had a pretty bad fight, and she accused me of looking to pick a fight due to the incident with our daughter's birthday. I told her that had nothing to do with it, and everything to do with the hickey on her neck. The fight ended in an impasse. We're still not recovered. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I've always trusted my wife. I never doubted her, but this bruise doesn't look like a bug bite, it looks like a hickey. I often feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during that Vegas retreat. Now she's wearing turtlenecks, and we're caught between arguing and her dousing our daughter and me with affection. Communication usually prevails for us, but not now. I think my accusation pushed us to a new level of argument. I'm at a loss here. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? There we go. That is it for the original post. Before we get into the update, let's jump into some comments and see what the people of Reddit were saying. Somebody said, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I've never gotten a bug bite that looked like a hickey. Did she show you her phone or provide any proof that could support her innocence, or just dismiss you? The extra affection is a common move from guilt-ridden cheaters. Even if we stretch the imagination and believe it is a bug bite, she wasn't acting trustworthy, nor was she a good mother while they were in Vegas, and she needs to address and correct that. OP replied, no, I haven't had access to her phone. We usually have an open phone policy, but it's not something we've ever really done. I'm sure it will be another argument. Somebody else said, why did you go on work trips with her in the past? Did she want you to, or did you not want her to go alone? What is, and why is it necessary to have, the system when one of you is away? Whose idea was the FaceTime birthday celebration? Did she not talk to her daughter at all on her birthday, or she just couldn't do the FaceTime celebration? OP replied, work-life balance was an issue, so she'd invite me on the retreats. The system is for an extended period away from each other, like how long the retreat was, especially since we have a child now. The birthday FaceTime was my wife's idea. She promised our daughter and got her excited about it. No, she didn't talk with our daughter until she was calling to cancel. That's another reason the birthday stunt rubbed me the wrong way. Well, that, I've got to say, guys, is actually terrible. Like, not chatting to your daughter at all on her birthday is so bad. I'm going to back my own parents up here. My parents never missed one of my birthdays ever. Like, they would make sure, even if there were work trips and stuff, they wouldn't go if it was on my birthday. So, first of all, respect to them. Actually, just last year, I think, was the first time that my dad wasn't there on my birthday, I believe. And I'm 26. So, you know, there's two ways of doing it. And by the way, I've been away on my birthday without my parents, but, you know, they want to be there, which is pretty nice. And it's definitely not like this mother. Anyway, OP then responded to a deleted comment saying, yeah, you don't get to disconnect from being a parent, especially to a minor, for extended holidays. You certainly don't ghost them on their birthday. And when you promise to do something special for them and got the child excited about it, and then just hang up on them while they're crying. To be honest, I don't even think the FaceTime is special at all, but there we go. I'm not insecure, OP says. My wife's gone on the retreats before. We both work outside the home and have the caring for our daughter, so it's not an imbalance. My wife's work-life balance is out of sorts. She's in the company of other adults plenty. I've been with my wife on these retreats and other social events. I know how she is. She was off this entire trip, and it wasn't appreciated her entertaining a co-worker who ignores boundaries and the fact that he had his arm wrapped around her waist like he was claiming her or something. I trusted her when she said she had a bug bite. I got things to help her treat it for when she returned. It was only after I saw the bruise in person that there was no mistaking it was a hickey for me, and I questioned her on it. Okay, then a week later, we got the following updates. Things are a roller coaster. I'm trying to process. It took a while for my wife and me to have any real conversation about the bruise on her neck. We were stuck between arguing and her showering our daughter and me with affection. I rarely saw the bruise because she was turtlenecked up, but I did note the healing process from reddish purple to yellow. There wasn't any more discussion about the Vegas retreat. She made it clear she was done talking about it and that she shouldn't need to defend herself to her husband. I told her she could do whatever she wanted, but I was done being treated like an idiot and I wasn't sharing a bed with someone I couldn't trust. So I moved into the guest room. Communication stopped. The silences were palpable. Even our daughter noticed. I'm not proud of that. I try keeping her out of fights. My wife came to the guest room one night and asked if we could talk. I could tell she'd been crying. She said she hated the way things were between us. She felt she was losing me either way. I told her I needed complete honesty. She confessed that she hooked up with that co-worker on our daughter's birthday. The hickey was from him. She was lost in the heat of the moment and didn't realize he was sucking so hard on her neck. By her account, they made out while doing some on top of the clothes stuff, and then he went down on her. It stopped there because he called her by a nickname that I affectionately call her. It snapped her back to the reality of her actions. She went to splash water on her face and saw the hickey. The guy made light of it and made a joke about the hickey being her souvenir. She blew up on him and kicked him out of her suites. Part of the reason she was avoiding me was out of guilt. She said she's coming clean because she doesn't want to hide things anymore. I asked her why she cheated. What was it about that guy that she deemed worth risking everything? She claimed it wasn't him specifically, nor is she unhappy with our marriage. She doesn't really know how to explain it, but a part of her feels broken. The more she looks in the mirror, the more she sees her dad, who is 57. A cycle of being consumed with work, distant from his child, and the infidelity he put her mum, who is 55, through. She said her family never talked about anything openly, and how when she was growing up, her mum never addressed anything with her. I said her parents didn't make her cheat. She chose to party up with a guy who constantly disrespected our relationship. These were all her decisions, and she at any point could have chosen our family. She agreed. She wants to blame her parents, but realizes this is on her. She apologized for cheating and for entertaining the guy's advances. She said she'll do whatever it takes to repair. Go to HR, quit her job, counseling, anything. She wants to make everything right. I told her I don't know what right looks like or if that's possible for us anymore. I knew we had our problems, but I thought there wasn't anything we couldn't talk out. She insisted we still could talk it out. We didn't have to give up on us. She tried giving this rally cry for our relationship, but I felt very numb. I said I didn't recognize her. Not just the betrayal of our vows, but also how she treated our daughter. She's like a stranger. She feels she failed as a wife and mum, but she loves us both beyond words and wants our life together and our family intact. I told her I couldn't give her the answer she wanted and thought we needed to separate and reevaluate. She didn't want separation. She felt we should stay together in our home. But I told her a separation was happening. Either she was leaving the home or I was with our daughter. She consented to leaving so as to best not uproot our daughter so much. She asked for our daughter not to be taken away from her. My wife's staying with my in-laws. I know that's difficult in itself because she doesn't have the best relationship with her parents. One of the hardest parts is the shift for our daughter now. Right now, she believes her mum's just busy with work per usual. She hasn't questioned it too much. My mother-in-law called the other day. She made no excuses for my wife, but she's advocating for us to work through it. She told me times when she heard my wife describe me as the anchor she always wanted. She believes there's something worth fighting for if I'm open. Despite some family opposition we faced throughout our relationship, my mother-in-law was always a supporter of us. I'm even more at a loss. I never imagined this kind of betrayal from my wife. She was my safe place. I feel numb, yet broken. I'm in love with her. That hasn't changed. But I don't see myself, her, our relationship, or our family the same. Everything's more tense because it's fresh. I think this period of separation is for the best. I'm not sure about divorce. I haven't let myself fully go there. I'm not set either way. I don't know where things go from here, but I'm focusing on our daughter and taking things one step at a time. I feel that's all I can do right now. Thanks again to everyone for the support. It is much appreciated. Okay, and there we go. Let's jump into some comments before I give my final thoughts. Somebody said, it was already established that there had been line crossing with the co-worker prior to the trip, even if it wasn't physical yet. But even if there hadn't been, I've known co-workers' pet names for their significant others before when only interacting with them on a professional level. The fact that the guy both intentionally gave her a hickey and used the pet name says a whole heck of a lot about him though. Someone willing to engage in an affair is bad enough. This guy was doing it as some kind of sick power play. I mean, that's a great point. He is 23 as well, so he's probably very immature, and I can definitely see how someone like that is, doing it for their own ego, to be like, oh, I did this. He's probably like gone and told all his mates how he broke up a relationship with an older woman, you know. Some people like that do exist. Now, somebody replied to this saying, it is also possible that it's something super common, like honey or baby, but OP said no, it's actually a specific nickname. It's not derived from her name or anything. It just summed up things I loved about her in one word. Apparently, he turned it into a sexual context. I mean, I don't want to get too far away from the real villain of the story, who is your wife, but this guy is awful. Somebody else said, one question, how close was the colleague to her to know her nickname that you use? And why did she let him this close to her, literally and figuratively? OP said, at the time, I knew they had a friendship. She was asked to mentor him as he joined her department. So she took him under the wing and was supposed to be showing him the ropes. They would text and stuff and he would cross boundaries. His texts increasingly read like a guy fishing for an opportunity though. My wife shut the idea down as not even a factor for her, and I chose to trust her because I never had a reason to doubt her before. As far as the nickname, it was something only I called her, but it wasn't like a secret thing. I called her by it in front of others and our daughter. She claims the guy overheard me say it when she had me on speaker once, and he asked her about it afterwards. Okay, so I guess that leads us into a final question for OP, which ultimately has to be, do you see yourself, or do you want to get back with your wife or not? And it's a very, very tough one, but I have quite strong opinions on this just based on what I've read. Now, if she had just gone on this retreat and maybe she liked the look of this guy, and on one night she made a huge error, did what they did, and then immediately came to you and your daughter, well, maybe not your daughter, but you know what I mean, came to you and said, I can't believe it, I've done this, I'm so sorry, this is the worst thing I've ever done, etc, 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 told you everything, was completely honest about it, came home from the trip, whatever. I think then and only then could there have been any potential for you to forgive her if you wanted to. I'm not saying you should, by the way. I'm saying that only under those circumstances would, in my opinion, you be able to potentially forgive her. However, the fact of the matter is that she lied to you for who knows how long. A while, right? Like, she said the hickey was a bug bite. She was just avoiding you the entire trip, not just in that one moment or that one day. The fact that she didn't speak to your daughter on her birthday because she was like just going after this guy. The fact that this has been a thing before, which you've obviously talked about, the guy being close to her or trying to get with her clearly, and her not actually, well, I suppose either she didn't understand it or was just a bit naive to what he was doing, or she actually knew what he was doing and was like, oh, don't worry, it's fine. Whereas in reality, she was probably actively encouraging it. All these things and more add up, and therefore I can say with all that context, then I don't see how you can ever get back with her, because it wasn't just the one moment of madness, cheating. It was all the lying and deceit and everything else.
on top of that. So for me, I think this relationship is sadly done. I don't know how you could ever trust someone like this again. To be honest, I think it would be very hard to, even if they did just cheat and then immediately apologize and yeah, the cheating was the only thing. But all this as well, I think it's going to be impossible. But hey, I'm not in love with this woman anyway. So there you go. My boyfriend expects me to keep up a lie with his family, but it feels wrong. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years. Guys, they're both 28 years old. OP is a woman. We live across the country from his parents. So this Christmas is the first time I will actually be meeting them. They are hosting us at their house for 2 weeks. I'm super thrilled to meet his family. It will be his parents and 2 siblings that still live at home. He has met my parents quite a few times because they live in the same area as us. He moved here for school about 10 years ago and loved it, found a job and stayed. Everything is going amazingly. We moved in together 2 years ago and our relationship is just progressing naturally. We aren't really in a rush to try and move quickly or anything, but I will call it a very serious relationship at this point. So anyway, yesterday we boarded our 6-hour flights. He seems a little bit nervous and fidgety, but I know that he doesn't fly very much, so I attributed it to that, and I told him I was there for him if he needed anything, to comfort him, and to let me know if I could do anything to calm his nerves. He said it was fine, and we were having a pretty good flight. Now, partway through the flight, he grabs my hand and tells me he wants to tell me something. He tells me that his parents think that we are a fairly new relationship. They don't know that we live together. They don't know that he is close with my family. He told them that we met at work, when in reality we met at school years ago. We had a lot of the same classes and met in school, but we stayed friends for a long time. He tells me that they think he lives in an entirely different city. He lied to them about what degree he has, and they think he has an entirely different job. He told me that a few white lies about making his parents happy so they'd keep sending him money during school snowballed into not knowing how to tell them, and he pretty much has a totally fake life in their eyes now. He told them that I work in the same field as his fake job, even though I don't. He gave them a totally random family backstory on me. He really wants me to keep up appearances with the stories he told them over this holiday because he doesn't want to make a big scene and be embarrassed about having to lay it all out and would prefer to wait until we get home again to tell them everything. I feel extremely uncomfortable with this, and I was honestly pretty shocked. I've said hello to his mum on speakerphone conversations, popped in for a Skype hello when they were chatting, and honestly, I had no idea that he had made up a huge story about us and me. I realise now that I've only actually spoken to her in the last year, which is how long his family thinks we've been together. It makes me feel like I can't trust him. He promised me that this is the only thing he's ever lied about. He said he lied about it because he wanted his parents to be happy with his decisions and wanted them to think he was making the choices they wanted for him. Would it be reasonable to assume that these are the only lies he's told and he hasn't fabricated anything within our own relationship? He never told me they didn't know anything about us. He always just made it seem like they did. I'm not really sure where to go from here or how to tell him that I don't want to do this. His parents paid for our tickets. Would the nice thing to do just be to close my mouth and let him sort this out on his own when we get home and just play along? I don't know what to do. We got here yesterday and everyone is fabulous, but so far I've just kept my mouth shut about everything. The first big family dinner is tonight, which I expect is where most of the conversation about us and what we do is going to come up, and I'm not sure how to handle it. Oh my goodness me. What a web of lies your boyfriend has constructed, OP. Right from the very beginning, this has all been leading to this moment, I feel like, and just getting worse and worse and worse. This is why these white lies that you start off with that you think are harmless, if you don't sort of deal with them pretty soon and sort of swallow your pride and admit to the facts, or just be honest with whoever it is, then you can become absolutely tangled in this web like OP's boyfriend is now. It's insane. And you know what? Like I would never do this myself, but I'd be lying if I said I'd never told a white lie before, maintain that white lie to, you know, for my pride or just so I don't get found out. And then it becomes a bigger thing, which actually you're like, well, I've got to keep this up because I've already said this lie in the past, but now it's way more intense and way more than I ever thought it would be when I just said that white lie at the start. This is like the ultimate version of that where, yeah, I mean, 4 years of lies. It's crazy. What I would say from your perspective, OP, is you have just got to say to your boyfriend, this is all on you. I'm not going to lie for your sake. I'm just not going to. I'm going to tell the truth the whole time.
because that's who I am as a person. And if you want to maintain this lie while I'm saying the opposite, that's on you. And if this is your family, so you're going to have to deal with the consequences. You can do whatever you want, and the way you act in this dinner and with your family and me in general is up to you, of course. But, you know, I'm going to tell the truth. And if you want to keep lying, that's on you. Now, I think you say that to your boyfriend, and then your boyfriend has a choice to make. Does he maintain this lie and, yeah, just become even more of a coward? That's ultimately what he's doing. And I get it, like he's put himself in this position, but he's done it to try and appease his parents over the years, and now it's just got too big for him. But what might happen at this dinner? Like, you say, or your boyfriend's parents ask you, "Oh, how's your job going?" You just say what your actual job is, and then just be honest. They say, "Oh, hang on, but we thought your job was this." You say, "No, it's this." Then you see how your boyfriend reacts. If your boyfriend then says, "Wait, hang on, honey, no it is, that's not your job, blah blah blah," and he still wants to maintain this lie, then that's a question about your relationship with him ultimately. And you think, do I want to be with somebody that's lying about my job to his family? No. If he then at that moment comes clean and says, this is what's been happening over all these years, then there you go. The risk that you take by going along with this lie for now is that I know he said that when you get back, he'll come clean and he'll tell his family over the phone. He might not do that. And in fact, I would say that he's probably not likely to do that. It's been such a long time anyway, right? It's been 4 years. Why now? If anything, like, this could go on forever, indefinitely. I think it's up to him what he wants to do, but you have got to tell the truth if that's what you want to do. Those are my thoughts. Let's see what the comments on Reddit were saying. And of course, we've got an update to come for this one as well. Somebody said, and they quoted this, "His parents paid for our tickets. Would the nice thing to do just be close my mouth and let him sort this out on his own when we get home and just play along? Well, actually, why would continuing to lie to these people be the best way to repay them for your flight? That's a good question." OP replied, "I just meant that I don't want to be the reason there's a huge blowout if this is something that I should be letting him keep between them, the people directly affected. I didn't mean I want to thank them by being a horrible person." I get what OP's saying. Like, they pay for you to come out there, have a good time. If you are the one that tells them, I suppose, that their son's been lying, then you, I guess, are the reason why the trip's not going to go well, even though you're obviously not. It's actually just their son. Somebody else said, "I don't think you can ever trust your boyfriend again. He's lying because he's afraid to disappoint his parents, and there's no reason he wouldn't do the same to you. If he gets fired from his job, he might just pretend he's still going to work every day and never tell you. If he cheats on you, he'll never admit it. If he goes into debt, he'll keep it secret and pretend everything is fine while it continues to get worse. He didn't tell you about the situation with his parents until the last minute when he had no other option except the option to come clean, which he didn't take. That is the level of truthfulness and integrity you can expect from him. He'll lie to you when it makes him look better or to cover for one of his previous lies, and he'll tell you the truth when he's all out of other options." That is a great comment, and I'd actually forgotten what OP said. Is this an indication of what else he might do, what else he might lie about? And I think I have to agree with this comment. Yes. If he's willing to lie to his parents, he's definitely willing to lie to you, and that is very, very worrying. OP replied, "It's really hard to swallow that. I do see what you're saying though." The same person then said, "I'd be more understanding if his parents had impossible standards that he could never live up to, and he had to lie to them to just maintain his peace and sanity. But that's not the impression I'm getting. It sounds like he's been lying about a lot of things for a long time, and he still thinks he can get out of it by telling more lies. I would tell him to come clean with his parents before dinner, because you won't cover for him. If he does it and actually faces the consequences of his lies for once, maybe he can learn something from this and change his ways." Great comment once again from this user. OP said, "Yeah, that's true. And yes, his parents weren't expecting a surgeon or anything. They think he teaches, but he's an architect. It's still an... Wait, sorry. They think he teaches, but he's an architect. Being an architect, in the UK at least, is one of the hardest things to be. It's extremely challenging to qualify as an architect. It's a 7-year course to become an architect. That's insane. Why does he not feel comfortable telling his parents that? Yeah, being a teacher is great, but it's harder to become an architect. Like, just statistically. That's just the facts. Anyway, OP continues, "It's still an awesome profession and in no way lesser than a teacher, so I don't understand it at all. I think I'll have to tell him. Either he has to come clean, or I'm answering honestly at dinner. Great. I completely agree with all of that. Somebody said, yeah, that is weird. I feel like most people think of an architect as being more prestigious than a teacher. OP says, exactly. I wouldn't say necessarily more prestigious, but equally as respectable as a career choice is definitely what I would say to that. As I said, it's very hard to become an architect. I actually did an internship at an architect firm a long time ago now, and those guys work very hard, and as I said, it takes 7 years to even qualify as one. Finally, somebody said, what I don't understand is that the guy is an architect when his parents wanted him to be a teacher. How can he think so poorly of his own parents who paid for his education to assume they wouldn't respect his choices? Unless they're crazy strict or abusive, I don't understand why you would conceal so much. OP replied, yeah, it's a fabulous job and he has wonderful parents. I'm sure they'd be incredibly proud. His younger sister is a McDonald's manager and they treat her promotions as they would if she had just made partner at a law firm. There's no way they'd be disappointed. I feel so frustrated at him, and honestly, I feel betrayed for his parents. They paid his way. It's so frustrating to feel trapped in this situation. Very, very interesting stuff. I've already given my thoughts, so let's get straight into the update. There are actually 2 updates here, but let's get into... Actually, there are 3 updates. Sorry, but let's get into the first one. So, I decided to tell him that I won't be perpetuating the lies, but I won't outright say anything because I don't feel like it would be appropriate for me to be the reason that everything blows up. I actually decided not to go to the first family dinner, and I'm unsure if I'm going to stay at this point, but I don't really know what to do. I didn't pay for the ticket, so I feel really horrible about seeming ungrateful, but I got a hotel for 3 nights just to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm still thinking because everything is just so intertwined and complicated, our bank accounts, our rental agreement, etc. So apart from the fact that I want to make this relationship work because I love him, it's also not really simple enough for me to just break away and leave. I want to work this out for everyone and figure out how to help him tell his family before we go. Anyway, I'm so sorry I'm so late for updating, but I'll update again when I have a more concrete plan. His family is amazing, and I feel wretched about everything. This is the thing that's so interesting to me, as another commenter said. If his family and his parents were just unbelievably pressurizing on him and just they had the most unrealistic expectations of what they wanted from their son, I would understand his actions a lot more. But it seems like they're not at all like that. I mean, the thing with his sister's job kind of just shows that. Anyway, the next day we did get an update. Okay, I think we have come to what will hopefully be the start of a resolution. So, I told his mum that I was so incredibly grateful for her generosity so far, even just one day into the trip, which is why I actually needed to take some time away and stay at a hotel for a few days, because staying with her didn't feel right until we cleared up some serious personal issues that have just come to light. I talked to my boyfriend and we decided on a plan. Tomorrow morning, his mum and dad are meeting us in a restaurant in the hotel. I offered to take them to brunch to discuss everything. I told him and his mum, separately, that I really want to be a part of this family, and for that to happen, we all need to have a big conversation. The plan is, at brunch, my boyfriend is going to lay everything out on the table. I'm going to explain to them that I didn't even realize the lies that have been going on, and I wasn't comfortable staying there and lying to their face, and that I just found out about this the day we landed. I wanted to make sure that my boyfriend resolved this with them, because from the moment I found out, I felt horrible, and I wanted to get off on the right foot with them. We both wanted to make sure that my boyfriend came clean while we were here. When I was talking to my boyfriend, there were definitely some tears, and I think he's going to feel so much weight off his chest when we finally talk about this. I really don't think he wanted or intended for this to happen. I don't think he would have brought me here if he wasn't okay with the truth eventually coming out. I will definitely update when the conversation happens. Thank you so much for the advice and support, everyone. Okay, now before we get into the third and final update, I just want to have a look at some comments. Somebody asked, is this a cultural thing maybe? I know some ethnicities get so much trash from parents, kids learn to just lie reflexively. Of course, you should break up, but since you don't want to snoop on his actual life, he's likely lying about what he's lying about. OP replied to that saying, I don't think so, honestly. They're pretty secular, white-bread Irish folk. I honestly couldn't see it being cultural. But maybe, I guess. I'm not sure what Irish people are normally like with their kids. Now, somebody else said, and this is super interesting, maybe the boyfriend is lying about being an architect. I suppose if he's lying about what you do to his parents, he could be lying about what he does to you. But OP said, I know for sure he is an architect. I'm not worried about that part, genuinely. He does a lot of work from our home office. We also hosted the Christmas party for his office the last 2 years, so I know his bosses and co-workers really well. I'm 100% positive they would have corrected me or not mentioned him during conversations and discussions about design projects. He's in a semi-senior role at his work, and I frequently stop by his office after work. We usually meet in the reception area to drive home. His office also has his name and job title, Project Manager, on his door. Trust me, he could not be fabricating the career with me so close and our general relationship with the office. Not trying to argue with you or anything, as I'm sure there's other lies, but his career and our bills are totally kosher. There's no worries there. Imagine if your boyfriend had gone through that unbelievable amount of effort to lie about being an architect as well, and had hired some actors for your Christmas parties, had hired a reception area, and made a sign with his name on it and project manager. That would be elite, but sadly that's not the case. OP continues, I'm an industrial designer and I'm familiar enough with the career and I've worked long enough in the field that I would catch a lie about his work pretty instantly. My guess is that it's something to do with his parents funding him and assuming he has an education degree because that's what he told them he was taking for some reason. Whether he knew right away that wasn't what he was going to do or he changed once he got to school, I honestly have no idea. We hadn't met at that time yet. That's the reason it's so strange and frustrating for me, because he has a fabulous career. These are the things that ultimately right now that you know that he's been lying all this time, you need to work out and you need to ask him about. Okay, so this is the final update posted 2 days later. It feels like so much to have to type out, so I'm going to try to condense it to be as straightforward and simple as possible. Basically, the brunch went really well. I was very impressed by my boyfriend. He was actually really forthcoming and laid pretty much everything out. He apologized to me and his parents, and he gave me an opportunity to tell them anything I wanted to tell them about my actual family, my life. They were really interested, and it was really refreshing just to start to get to know them on an honest level. He basically came clean about absolutely everything, including some other personal stuff that I didn't even know about that he had told myself and them. He apologized and promised he was going to take steps to earn our trust back, including therapy. It really actually felt like it brought us closer together. His parents were quite hurt and initially upset, but I think it really did a lot for what they thought of me as a partner for their son and future daughter-in-law, which I'm really happy about. They were really supportive in the end and told him that basically at the end of the day he is still loved and they will just have to start building that trust up again. I'm going to continue staying at their house now, and they will tell his siblings together. I actually ended up sitting down for a cup of tea at their place with his mum, and she did explain to me that she's going to talk to him privately about the pressure he might have felt to lie to them, because I guess they realize now that they put more pressure into him than any of the other kids, because he was originally going to follow his dad's footsteps as an English teacher. She told me that she really likes me, and she hopes it doesn't affect my view of their family or her son. She thanked me for pushing for the honesty, and she can't wait for the opportunity to get closer to us. My boyfriend also seems so much more open to having conversations about coming back and having them come stay with us. It really worked out in the long run for me to not make any hasty decisions, because I'm really happy with how this turned out. To me, it just seems like just mistakes on both ends that culminated in a really bad choice on his end. Thank you again, everyone, for the advice. Okay, and there we go. That is the end of that story. A good ending, to be honest. I was slightly worried that this wasn't going to be resolved, but it sounds like it has been, and you guys are going to be able to move forward from this. And yeah, everything's going to be good, which is sweet, because it would be a shame if this was like a really big character trait of your boyfriend, that he was just too scared to tell the truth, or didn't tell the truth often for whatever reason, and you weren't ever able to trust him again. Obviously, like, you're still going to have to build trust in him, as are his parents. But yeah, the fact is, at least he's now owned it. You helped him massively, of course, but what he's just done there is the hardest bit. Now it should be a lot easier. And hopefully as well, now he'll think, well, I'm never doing that again. Look at that web of lies that I got tangled in. That was horrible. Now, the reason I really enjoyed that story is because it's actually, I can resonate with it quite a lot. One of my friends did something very similar to this. And sort of, all of a sudden got trapped in his own web of lies. Lost his job, didn't tell us about it, was kind of pretending that he was still going to the job, etc., etc. And it was a bit weird. And ultimately, when we talked to him about it, I think the main thing was he was just too proud to actually openly say, listen, I lost my job. Or yeah, I'm not getting paid, etc., etc. And he didn't tell his parents either. So they and similar to this, like, they're not super demanding of him, or they're not like, they don't ask crazy things or pressure him, I don't think, to, you know, do things that are unreasonable or have an unreasonable career. It's just sort of the pressure that he puts on himself. And when that happened, he I suppose just didn't want people to know about it, couldn't really face that fact. But again, like with all these things, the truth is always eventually going to come out. And then I feel like now, if that was to happen to him again, he would act completely differently for the better. Because ultimately, like, if you do lie about these things, and I'm a bit more like that. Like if that happened to me, I'd be like, oh, that's like absolutely gutting, maybe slightly embarrassing, whatever. And I wouldn't want people to know. I feel like shame. Which you shouldn't, because, you know, everyone loses their job. Or yeah, I mean, he didn't even lose his job. It was just that comment that was saying if he gets fired from his job, he might pretend he's still going to work every day and never tell you. Yeah, that happened to me. But again, like, I can kind of see it. Like you're just too proud. But ultimately, it's going to hurt you not telling the truth. And also, the main point is, if you do lose your job, or if you don't have a career that your parents necessarily wanted you to have, even though that wasn't really the case in this story, like, everyone is still going to love you. Surely, because who really cares what job anyone has? Ultimately, I don't care. As long as you're happy, as long as people are happy, then that's all good. It's sad that OP's boyfriend felt this way for such a long time. I can't imagine like the mental torment that was going on, like the anguish. But as I said, I feel like now it's resolved, and this shouldn't happen in the future, because he will always think back to how terrible this was, maintaining this lie for so many years. Tonight, I broke up with my boyfriend because he kept joking about murdering me. Alright, the original post for this one came back in 2024 in April. During our first few weeks of dating, my boyfriend joked too much for comfort that he was going to murder and dismember me and dispose of my body. Maybe out of context, I'm being dramatic. He's very sarcastic and has dark humor. But to me, it wasn't funny and caused me anxiety because I know the statistics. I talked to him about this. I told him repeatedly, stop joking about killing me. He kept on with the jokes until I finally told him that those jokes literally scare me. He apologized and seemed to feel bad that his jokes made me scared of him. Tonight, we were over 3 hours late to meet with his brother to play games, watch movies, and eat dinner. When I was talking to him about us being late, I noticed he sighed deeply, clenched his fist, and looked down at it, as if he were making the conscious choice to not punch me. Then, as I was saying goodbye to his brother, he comes into the room and says she should say her permanent goodbyes. I asked him, what the heck? He said it was a joke. So I asked, how is that funny? What's the punchline? Please explain to me how that was supposed to be funny. He couldn't answer. I didn't even want to get in the car with him. I walked off, and thankfully my roommate picked me up and drove me home. He called later and I told him I'm done. He's a good man, other than for the jokes about killing me. We talked about it and agreed that he wouldn't joke about killing me anymore, but then he did it again tonight and doubled down that it was just a joke and that actually I'm the problem. I started telling him again about how often women are killed by their husbands and boyfriends, and that's why the jokes bother me so much, but he interrupted me to say, F you. So I hung up and blocked him. All of this really sucks because my roommates say I should just talk it out with him and give him another chance because they can tell I really like him and he really likes me. But I've already done that. I thought we were past the homicide jokes. Then he did it again tonight while he was angry with me, and it caused me this awful feeling in my gut that I needed to not get in that car with him and actually get away from him. I've had boyfriends and male friends in the past. None of them have ever made jokes about murdering and dismembering me, especially multiple times after I told them to stop. Have you had friends or boyfriends that make jokes like this? Where's the humor in it? And what would you do in this situation? Okay, so there we go. That is it for the first post. Let's jump straight into the comments and see what the people of Reddit said. Somebody said, and this was the top comment, you've already given him chances. He agreed to change, then he broke his word. So not only is he verbally abusive and potentially violent, he also breaks his word. You did nothing wrong. There's no humor in what he said, and abusers frequently excuse their abuse in the two ways he did. First, they say it was a joke. If you don't accept that, they try to blame it on you. You don't want to become a statistic? Well, there are plenty of men out there who will never threaten to kill you. You've done exactly the right thing. Don't feel bad about anything you've done. My one piece of old women advice to you is to be very strict around dating men when it comes to threats. Joke or not, if a man threatens you in any way, tell him that if he does it again, it's over. Don't tolerate any kind of threats or violence ever. If the man is actually a danger, he will see tolerance as a sign that he can violate your boundaries without consequences. Somebody else said, just remember, there's a lot of murdered women that once said he'd never do that to me. Then finally someone commented this: when I was a teenager, I would go driving around country roads and around our smallish town with male buddies from school. I'm a woman. And one night my really good friend thought it was a good idea to make a joke about chopping me up with an axe. I got really terrified. It was just an overwhelming and scary thing to hear, and I started to cry. The immediate regret was obvious in my friend's eyes, and he genuinely looked mortified for having scared me so bad. He started apologizing, saying it was such a stupid joke, and he reassured me. In the moments after making his stupid attempt at humor and seeing the impact it had, he felt remorse and wanted to correct his behavior. Your ex didn't do this, or if he did, he immediately repeated the scary behavior again anyways. My friend never made a joke like that again. Men who actually care about us will respond empathetically to our fear response and will want to do whatever it takes to ensure we feel safe around them, especially if it's as simple as refraining from making dumb, quote, jokes. I hope you never have to see this creep again, and good for you for sticking up for yourself. There we go, that's it for the comments. I could not agree more. I don't even need to add my own thoughts here. The comments have just summed my thoughts up perfectly. If someone is making jokes like this in the first place, they're a complete wrong'un. But if they're still making these sort of sick jokes when you tell them not to, then I'm sorry, they just have to be sick in the head. Anyway, 11 months later, we got this update. Thankfully, I have moved across state since posting my original post, and I haven't seen him since. The last time I spoke to him, over the phone, I made it very clear several times. You promised you'd stop making jokes about murdering me, but then you did it again. You realize the greatest threat for women is being murdered by their boyfriends/husbands. They are most likely to be killed by men they know. He said, hey, well, F you. So I hung up. I ghosted him after that. I blocked him on everything, and I alerted my employer that if he showed up, he was a threat. However, he sent me an email in an attempt to, I don't know. I'll leave you to draw conclusions because I really can't make sense of it. This is the email he sent me. He says, Dear my name, spelled with 3 hashtags. He got my name wrong multiple times and it became a joke, which is what he's referring to here. I don't really know how to go about saying that I am empathetic, as I'm a me-pathetic mess. But I do feel I can understand and I have recognized. My actions have consequences. Clearly. I thought I was being reasonable. I gave you time and space. I wasn't sure how long I needed to wait or if I should just do nothing, but I didn't know you'd even blocked me until today, as I had not called and only texted that first day, expecting nothing back. Yet now I understand. I should have known. I tried to call you tonight though, despite my better judgment. That's when it hit me hard. It's been almost 2 weeks. I know you don't want to be in a relationship with me, but I wanted to end this civilly, I could hope at least, on terms that we could both live on, amicably. Or me, since I didn't have a choice. That terrible night was booze-ridden and, unfortunately for me, the end of us. I didn't get any chances, but I made my choices, and I was cut out of you like the cancer I became, regardless of how much I remember, due to my memories being cut down by Irish whiskey and my hazed focus. You ghosted me. Now I know how that feels, as I've done that to others. I deserve this. It's interesting because you mentioned to me that I never had to change my number in my last relationship over 5 years ago because all I needed to do was block them. Dang. History not only repeats itself, but it can be frickin' ironic. I lost one of my best friends. I lost you. I've been hurting, OP. This hurt even more when I realized you don't even want to communicate with me. I would ask why, but I know it's because you hate me, what you think of me, what you think I am. Who likes Andrew Tate? Nobody. I embody that nobody. I am hate. I am Tate in capital letters. Yes, this is actually what the email said. I can't quite believe what I'm reading, but anyway, I obviously have a lot of growing up to do. I was not aware of just how much. I do not regret you or the experiences I shared, which were awesome and different than all the treasures I'd experienced with any other soul. We had so much in common, and yet the few things we didn't shaped itself into a shadow that blocked our lights, your lights. I regret not realizing that perhaps. I was just not ready. You are so beautiful and awesome, OP, and I hate hurting you in any way, especially since you deserve so much love, and instead, I gave you fear. You, however, only gave me happiness. You made me feel wanted, so much so that it blindsided me. I haven't been that happy in a very long time, and maybe that's why I fell for you so hard and so fast, as I'd been in the dark for years, and your essence got me as high as a kite. I could see the sky for once. I was flying. I'd been grounded since I'd lost my wings a few years ago, and it showed. I started sinking in the sands of time, in bottles, in gates drowned by my fears. My brother lost a friend because of me. I lost because of me. I may be a good person that does bad things, but I did a bad thing to a good person. It scares me to think that when we do, and it will inevitably happen as it's a small town, run into each other, you will fear me, and I will fear you. I don't want that, but I made my grave, and I suppose I need to sleep in it. I will not call you again, as I did tonight, as much as I want to. You can always call me, but I'm aware that is about as real as my dreams coming true. I've respected your space. I haven't tried to suffocate it or breathe your air. I just wanted to bury myself with a little dignity today, considering that I must be public enemy number one. I'm embarrassed to admit that running into your roommates or even co-workers makes me feel uncomfortable. That I did to myself. And you, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I know you will find someone sooner or later who will treat you with respect and make you feel loved. I am not him. I failed. But you will have that, as much as I don't want to think of it, and you deserve it as much as I didn't commit to that. I know you think I don't love you. You can ghost me, you can not respond. I don't think you will anyways. Maybe you won't even read this, which is okay. I needed to say my piece, to rest at sea. But you can't take away how I felt, or how I feel at all. Maybe that was the problem. I was too much. You thought I was just a blimp in time anyhow, and now. That blimp can finally sink in time. What have I just read? Okay, this guy is an absolute creep. Now, there are some comments from OP and from the people of Reddit that I do want to jump into in just a few seconds. But firstly, I have to say, I actually feel like I've been slightly conned here. I thought, based on everything that OP had said throughout the majority of this story, especially at the start, that this guy was pretty normal. He just liked to make a few sarcastic jokes, dark humor. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of dark humor and sarcasm. As you guys probably know, I do think it's a little bit of a step too far to then suddenly start making jokes about dismembering your partner. I'm not sure my sarcasm and dark humor goes to that length. I don't think anyone would call that humor, really. However, I was under the impression he was a nice guy. He just liked making dark, sick jokes. And then he just didn't understand the fact that you had told him, no, these make me really uncomfortable. But now that I've read that monstrosity of an email, clearly that is not the case. And this guy has some serious issues. I mean, anytime you see an email that mentions Tate in regards to anything, it's not good. Unless it's like, I don't care about what that guy says or anything he stands for or anything he does. But, yeah, what was that? That's got to be one of the weirdest emails I've ever read. Anyway, as I said, there are some final comments and questions from the people of Reddit, and OP has responded and given a little bit more context. So, to finish us off, let's jump into them. Now, immediately someone in the comments said the following, and this was actually heavily downvoted. People talking about this man being a sociopath, psychopath, narcissistic. To me, he sounds like a generic boy that is trying to verbalize his emotions for the first time. I don't know how old he is, but it reads like the letters of my first boyfriend at 20 years old sounded. Trying to be poetic and funny, and failing at both, and just word vomiting emotions without fully understanding them. Yeah, that's just a normal dude learning his actions have consequences for the first time. I could not disagree with that more. Firstly, OP replied to this saying he's like 40 years old, which just completely destroys whatever this comment was trying to say. But even if he was 20, I'm sorry, that's still, I could not disagree with that more. Somebody else said, now this is a bit more of a reasonable comment, I'm just glad that you're safe. I've wondered about you from time to time. Remember, there was an 11-month gap between the original post and the update. OP replied, thank you, I'm doing great. Well, that is great to see. Somebody else said, this reminds me of how an ex responded to me many years ago when I broke up with him. I broke up with him because I started getting this weird gut feeling that I didn't feel comfortable being alone with him, and he was getting very possessive and a bit manipulative. I even had a close family friend reach out to me to hesitantly share that she wasn't sure why, but she was worried about me being alone with him. He responded via text by trying every manipulation tactic in the book, from telling me he was sobbing and to please take him back, to saying I had just been using him and was a liar, to telling me he didn't know how he was going to go on with his life. His reaction made me realize I absolutely made the right choice. OP said, thank you for sharing. It's so important to trust our instincts. Someone else said, him talking about alcohol makes it make sense. All the more reason to keep him blocked though. If he's making those jokes while drunk, there's a non-zero chance that he did actually fantasize about killing and dismembering you or someone else. I completely agree with that. I do think that how you act and what you say when drunk is just a heightened version of you. I mean, to an extent, I do think that is true. Now, don't get me wrong, I've done some questionable things when drunk in the past, so I don't fully think that you are the same person or anything. I just think that sometimes if someone says something when they're drunk, actually that is what they're meaning deep down, and saying, oh, I was drunk, isn't a good enough excuse as to why you did something. Anyway, OP actually replied to this saying, well, most of the time when he made the jokes, he was totally sober, which is pretty damning. I was going to say the same. There's no way he was drunk and then said these things and then was like, well, I'm not apologizing for saying it and doubling down all when he was drunk, right? This guy is just a lunatic anyway. Somebody else said, I read through your first post. The dating phase is when you get to know somebody. Take your time to do that before more commitment. He's a nutcase. I doubt he ghosted anybody and he's trying to say things that make himself look better. OP said, we weren't together for long. I was initially attracted to him because he was cheerful, happy, charismatic, kind, considerate, and handsome. Then the mask fell off. Yeah, cheerful, happy, charismatic, kind, and considerate. I think we can disagree with all those things. I don't think he embodies any of those characteristics. Handsome, maybe, but hey, psychopaths can be handsome, and let me tell you, they quite often are. And finally, somebody said, shadow that blocked our lights. Your lights. Quoting the email. Am I the only one who read that as another death threat? Blocking the light with capital letters implying she'll be turned off? OP, please do not lower your guards and be careful. OP said, wow, you had a great point. I hadn't considered that until now. That's true, actually. I'm not sure why you would capitalize light. I don't see that as a death threat, but I don't actually think that really matters. I think the main point is this guy is obviously weird. The fact that he's mentioned, like, we will bump into each other again and you will be scared of me, that's very threatening. Just that, coupled with all the rest of the context that we have about this guy from the whole post, just leads me to the conclusion that you need to avoid this guy at all costs. So there we go. That is the end of that story. Now, in the comments down below, I want you guys to let me know. There's a new show on Netflix right now. It's called Adolescence. It's very good. It's based in the UK, so I don't know if it's that popular in the US, but it has some themes around sort of young boys and who their role models are. It actually mentions Andrew Tate in it. I haven't watched the whole thing, so I don't know how it ends. I've only watched 3 episodes, but it's interesting that there are sort of similarities with this post, even though this guy is much older, and Adolescence, the TV show, where it's clear the influence that these online influencers, these like male role models that are actually just quite disgusting and at times criminal people are having on the wider world in general. Like this email clearly, like I don't think 20 years ago this guy writes this email. I think it's what's going on right now online, and yeah, him probably watching a lot of like hate online from the likes of Andrew Tate, other people of course. Just that general sort of like, yeah, sexist, anti-women sort of like belittling the other gender stuff, which is just disgusting. I think that's having a big effect on people, and I think it's definitely had a big effect here on your XOP, but I think the thing to do is just avoid these people at all costs if you can, as I said, and at the very least, you know, you're doing great now. Those are your words. And you've been able to avoid him, I think, for all that time so far. So yeah, just keep it up and well done for getting out of there.